All
I
right.
can't see who the other person in the room is.
I can't either. We'll know soon enough. All right, you're
Same
back.
link or no?
Yep.
Hey, sorry.
All right.
Are we back online? It
Yes.
looks like we're online. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I couldn't even
So
log
that
into
was
the
fun.
thing. That was weird.
I mean, that's what a denial of service will fucking do.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, that's what was going on. I'll have to dig into my logs to know for sure, but
Well, hooray.
Welcome back to the Free Assange Vigil, everyone. We're getting attacked by private intelligence corporations as a part of the job. We have 2 live streams actually up right now. I don't know how. Nope, that one's over. Okay.
man, I'm too tired to be dealing with this kind of shit this morning.
Right? That's what they're going. Hopefully, I thought they were too tired because for the last 3 weeks, we've mostly avoided any type of intelligence interference. But
Pretty much.
do you want to continue reading, Steve?
Yeah, give me just a minute.
Okay. So if you guys have any questions, we do kind of try to make this as AMA as possible. So if you have questions about the court case, questions about Julian's situation leading up to this, or just in general, please let us know.
So I believe I was reading off of Mary's thread.
Yeah, I think you just switched to witness 2
before we were so rudely interrupted. Yeah, the staff had openly talked about what they were doing at the embassy and the information they were giving about Julian to the U.S. Morales went to the U.S. often to talk to our American friends, had a secure phone to communicate. This is still witness number 1, by the way. I asked who they were, and he said U.S. intelligence. Witness says Morales then became very wealthy, and new monitoring equipment was installed in the embassy. Witness 1 says he then sold his shares in the partnership. Witness 2 is a tech expert employed to design a system to capture everything that was going on at the embassy, including sound. Witness 2 told to deny the equipment was recording audio and to make sure the equipment allowed for streaming so the U.S. could observe contemporaneously. There was a mic in the socket in the toilet as well. Witnesses challenged morality on the legality of this. Morales said the lawyer meetings were the primary target as this was required by our U.S. friends. Witness says Morales instructed him to steal a diaper of a baby as the U.S. wanted to establish paternity. Witness 1, documents were stolen from Julian Assange by embassy personnel. Witness 1 relates lawyers had their devices copied, that he was told by Morales the Americans were very nervous about the Californian politician who was going to visit Julian. That's Rohrbacher.
And Mary adds there.
Witness 2, not witness 1. Sorry, Mary's saying that it's going by really quickly, and she's doing the best she can to keep up here on the tweeters. Assange lawyer Balthasar Garzon was followed, spied on, and men in balaclavas entered his office. That's neat. Clavas. And then Fitzgerald just got up to read Chomsky's statement.
Well, goddamn, guys. Do we want to see who has some more expansion on the UC Global? I'm trying to see where Kevin's at. I wonder if they had issues with the cloud video platform then.
I think they had an issue with time. That's why they're doing so many witness statements, because there's just no time to do all that. I think they had an issue with time.
Whoa.
That's why they're doing.
There we go.
All right, I'm gonna boot that other one.
Yeah.
I think the other one's the other you, Josh. Or it's Kevin. He's just hanging out,
Right.
sitting on the inside.
Right. I made it.
They'll never know I'm here. I don't know why we use the same voice for we have the documents as we do for Kevin. I'm gonna pick up with Defense Assange reading through the UC Global witnesses. We already read the first couple, so I won't bore everyone with those. But witness 1 recounts the spying operation on Assange in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Morales said that he was providing reports to U.S. intelligence agencies, particularly zeal in recording Assange's conversations with his lawyers. Witness 2 is talking about the spying operations as well. The intention was to provide embassy recordings to the U.S. in real time. The witness refused because it was manifestly illegal. The microphone was installed on the fire extinguisher, especially wanted to record conversations with the lawyers. If you guys remember, the fire extinguisher that they're talking about was in the meeting room of the Ecuadorian embassy. You can actually see it in a lot of pictures of Julian in that space. Consequently, ones that came out from UC Global, I believe, into ABC News, if I remember that correctly. But witness 2 says, Morales asked me to take a diaper from a baby in the embassy to determine if Assange was the father. The U.S. was particularly interested in this. According to Morales, the Americans asked him to personally control and monitor everything surrounding a visit from the California politician to the embassy, referring to Dana Rohrabacher. Assange's lawyer, you already read from Defense Assange's, didn't you? Assange's lawyer, Garzani, was spied on, and men in balaclavas entered his office. I don't know what the hell that word is.
I think Steve read all this already.
He did. I thought he was reading Mary Kostakidis's. I was not keeping up with the class.
Balaclavas, by the way, covering the face.
Ski masks, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was kicked out for quite a while.
Yeah, we all were.
Mhm.
Sorry about that.
Josh got DDoSed again.
Okay.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been. It's been some months.
Well, there you go. This is good promotion for the slow news action for Assange.
Right.
We are making some people uncomfortable.
Yeah, UC Global started coming up and bloop. There it went.
So in between Chomsky's statement and the last UC Global statement, there was a statement of Hitor Martinez Jimenez. Julian's Spanish lawyer gives a procedural history of the criminal case against UC Global and the key issues going on in the Spanish litigation. Over on Juan Pasarelli's page, he had a little bit more details on the UC Global thing. Stickers were placed in the windows, so laser microphones on the windows would be able to circumvent a noise machine. Morales said that he and his American friends were considering leaving the embassy door open for a kidnap and even poisoning Assange. They discussed going into Balthasar Garzon's office, and then 2 weeks later it was broken into. Let's see. He got Morales got a $200,000 a month payment for all of this work. Spanish courts ordered the arrest of Morales due to the information provided by the 2 witnesses. They found thousands of dollars in cash and a couple of loaded guns, and that's where that ends. And as more of Chomsky's statement comes in, we will definitely get to it. I think we're just kind of waiting on people to make notes and then get them out.
Did anyone get? I think it was Ian, the link.
Yes, I sent him the link in a text message.
Okay. wonder if that's him that I kicked. Hopefully not.
I don't know. I think that was a duplicate of you, just by the
Yeah,
way that
'cause
it was acting.
It echoed
Yeah.
when you were talking.
Weird.
So, Steve, after the UC Global information's been entered into the trial, what do you think's going to happen now?
I mean, I'm glad it was. It's hard to tell, dude, because there's been so much evidence given to the illegality of the case against Julian Assange and the multiple different ways that all of his rights have been trampled on by multiple governments and the institutions that represent those governments. It would be really hard to still go ahead with ruling in a direction positive for the US on extradition after all of this, but
I suspect
this
that,
is a judge that comes with prepared statements.
yeah, I suspect that, well, I don't need to suspect. The prosecution already said that these witness statements are irrelevant, so they will probably argue that they're irrelevant to the case.
I mean, we've seen the prosecution also argue that there's no such thing as solitary confinement in the U.S. because they changed the name. So,
yeah,
so there's
yeah.
not much credibility between Corella DeVille and Megabrain as far as what is and isn't relevant to the U.S. court case, at least in my opinion.
Except they have a very a loving judge in front of them.
Yes. Disturbingly so, because we've seen her throughout this time literally act as the prosecution and ask questions and be rude to witnesses. And even just the fact that she's a judge with all the conflicts of interest that you've pointed out is disturbing.
Well, she herself, we don't know about her own conflicts of interest. We definitely know about Arbuthnot's extensive, multiple, gross conflicts of interest. And
Isn't her husband in WikiLeaks?
That's Arbuthnot.
Arbuthnot.
Yeah, Arbuthnot's husband and son are both in WikiLeaks.
Because you have a call, you actually have an open letter up on Wise Up Action about that, Nikki. So do you want to talk a little bit about?
Yeah. Well, it's an open letter to Lord Buckland, who has the power, if he wishes, to remove Arbuthnot from the case, and not only from the case, but from office for judicial misconduct. We believe that she should be removed for judicial misconduct. He has the letter in his hands. It was posted by registered mail because his office didn't want to accept it when it was delivered in hand. So, but there's been absolutely no response from Lord Buckland or anybody from his office. However, that letter and the complaint that was made to the JCIO is published on the Wise Up Action site, and people can go and read the letter and the complaint, and they can either just ask for their name to be added onto the open letter, or they can also, or they can comment. And so we've had some really good comments from people, and those who are interested can read the comments below the letter. But it's a very important action. It goes beyond just a petition. It's a petition for a particular action that goes to the root of this monstrous persecution. Without Arbuthnot, nothing stands.
So there's a comment in my chat from Ozwizzles saying, have you noticed all of the Chomsky hate lately? And I don't think people are hating on Chomsky. I think people are finally realizing that they don't have to agree with everything everyone says. And they're taking, like, Well, they're taking issue with his support of Joe Biden, but it's coming across as like fuck Noam Chomsky because fuck Joe Biden. And I think that's where most of any kind of like expressed frustration towards Chomsky comes from. I mean, he's like 117 years old, man. And he's had institutional security for like 75 years. Of course, he's going to tell you to vote for the fucking neoliberal candidate, even though he knows better. Because
would you say that he is manufacturing consent right now?
I would, in fact, say that he is manufacturing consent, Andrew. Through the media, even.
I thought that was way more clever than everybody else did, apparently.
It's early, Andrew.
I'm trying. I'm trying.
I'm going to go grab coffee. I'll be back in a minute.
So we have Mo as of 2 minutes ago with the first bit of Noam Chomsky's statement here. Chomsky's statement says, Mr. Assange's alleged crimes is to lift the veil of secrecy that permits power to be subject to scrutiny and potentially evaporate. And courageously upholding the beliefs that most of us profess to share, in turn, have led him to be pursued in a cruel and intolerable manner. So, Chomsky, being Chomsky, just that first sentence was wonderfully worded. Let's see. We have a bit from Mary Kostakidis here. Chomsky's statement says, WikiLeaks brought sunlight to power. Her editorializing a little bit. Chomsky's irrefutable and powerful statement is impossible to convey rapidly. This is one to bookmark and make sure to read. Chomsky says in his statement, the public is an enemy that must be kept in ignorance. There's something ringing in the office. Hold on.
Did you kidnap the ice cream man again, Andrew?
It's for the raccoons.
Right.
They need a snack.
So from Kevin Gastola, he says the majority of Chomsky's statement addresses the relevant extradition treaty issue of whether Assange was targeted for his political opinions. Characterizing the approach of the government, Chomsky adds, the public, on the contrary, is an enemy that must be kept in ignorance. With all the statements entered in court, that leaves 4 witnesses, Jamil Jaffer, Gareth Pierce, Michael Teagar, and Andy Worthington. Worthington is scheduled to give live testimony this afternoon. Court has recessed for an hour.
So that's super exciting.
The Don't Extradite Assange campaign has a handful of video summaries on their Twitter account of, I believe, Christian Muir from Reporters Without Borders talking about the witness statements. I don't know if you guys want to pull those or not.
Yeah, that would have to be Sleepy Josh that grabs those. If you could send links. I'm going to see if I can't dig across the internet real quick and find these UC Global witness statements.
You probably won't be able to find them yet. Perhaps
No,
at the
Mo
end of the
says
day.
they haven't sent them out yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
According to Mo, he's waiting because he wants to spend some time on Chomsky's statement. But he said something on his Twitter about as soon as I get sent these, I'll be able to put something out.
Yeah, I think the witness statements are published at the end of their cross-examination. If there is going to be one, once the witness.
Would you want me to set
I'll
up?
be back in a moment, y'all.
The videos from today Steve was talking about, I'm not sure where they were.
If you guys send me links,
from
I
the
should be
DEA
able
campaign.
to.
Let me find them real quick.
Throw them in Signal or something.
I'll have to put them. Oh, Okay, I'll find them on my phone then.
Or Twitter, whatever.
Yeah, from what I can see, the DEA account is retweeting Kevin and Stefania. Oh, that's an interesting tweet here. Register. The Belmarsh Tribunal will investigate and evaluate US war crimes in the 21st century and defend Julian Assange's right to reveal them. Bye. What does that mean? This is an interesting tweet.
Yeah, that link won't do me any good. That's the mobile one. I'll have to just send.
Hold on.
Just go to your computer, do it in Twitter or something.
Okay. Where was that tweet coming from, Nikki?
It's on the Don't Extradite Assange Twitter feed 21 minutes ago, and it says, register. The Belmarsh Tribunal will investigate and evaluate US war crimes in the 21st century and defend Julian Assange's right to reveal them. And can you see it? I can take a screenshot and send it to you.
I'll pull it up real quick. I was getting some videos over to Josh.
Sorry?
I was sending some videos to Josh real quick.
Okay.
You said that was a Don't Extradite Assange campaign?
Yeah, it's on their live feed, Twitter, whatever it's called. What's it called? Twitter feed.
Yeah, the thread.
Yeah. So 21 minutes ago, I'll send it to. I took a screenshot.
Is this the same video? There's two of them in there, Andrew.
Maybe, yeah. It says 2 October, Friday. I'm not sure. Eventbrite.
This is a different one. That thing you just sent me, Andrew, which one is it? Or are they the same?
Hang on.
Hold on, I'm checking. There should be two different ones.
Now, how do I send it?
Because they look like the same length. So
I see that. I'm fixing it.
If I send it to Slow News, you all get to see it. Is that right?
No, I can't see Slow News.
No, Steve will be able, if it's a screenshot, Steve will be able to show it. I'm just setting up a video that DEA put out.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the second
one. So I've sent it to Steve's DM.
Okay, he'll be back in just a second.
Yeah.
And I got a third one there for you too, Josh.
We're going to have to do these one at a time.
That's fine.
It's hard to set them up live. Oh, damn it. Oh, wait. This is going to be incredibly hard for me to set up. God damn it. I'll try to get him.
Nikki just sent you a... Wow, the echo. Nikki just sent you a tweet to pull up.
I'm not sure what it means, though. Are they advertising a film? It's an interesting tweet. The Belmarsh Tribunal will investigate and evaluate U.S. war crimes in the 21st century and defend Julian's right to reveal them.
No, it's a webinar thing.
Oh, it's called Register. Well, I'll register for the webinar. However, the information, the Belmarsh Tribunal will investigate and evaluate U.S. war crimes in the 21st century. That's interesting. I mean, I don't know what that's about.
It's not letting me into Twitter on my other computer, so I can't get those links on there.
Okay.
Man, I'm getting all kinds of fuckery today. What the hell?
It's always fun. I'll put the link to this event in the chat for everybody, though. Hey, we got DJL7 in the chat. How are you today, buddy?
Hey, good morning.
And again, if anyone has any questions about the case or about what's happened so far or about today, let us know. Just as a quick recap, we are on lunch right now. So Kevin Gostola will hopefully probably be jumping in here in a minute because I have I don't even have questions. I just want to hear about the UC Global stuff. I just want you to sit quietly and pay
Tell
attention.
me a story, Kevin Costello.
Right? We have so many story times with. He's probably working furiously on typing up a piece, though, so I wouldn't expect him in immediately. We should, at any moment, have Gordon Dimmick joining us.
And in the next like hour or half hour, we should probably have a Kendra too, although I haven't talked to her this morning.
I don't know if she is awake yet. I don't know.
He's a couple hours
So
up from us. She's probably up.
I'm going to find a document here for us. Not a document, it's a gray zone article about UC Global. There was one that we were going to try to do on the Vigil yesterday, but did not get a chance to. I can pull it up and screen share it. I just have to find it real quick. And Steve was talking about this a little bit earlier, but Sheldon Adelson's personal or head of security for Las Vegas Sands, I believe, has been called into the Spanish court.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I am getting this gray zone article up here. It's just like 10 steps away. So hang on for me, guys. I'm sorry. Gordon says he's watching. I told him to jump in anytime.
Stop teasing me, Gordon Dimmick.
I'm going to screen share this up here for us. Uh-oh. Do we have a Gordon Dimmick? Oh, we have a Kevin Costello. That's about equally as good.
That's not equally as good.
Well, I've seen Kevin a lot in the last 2 weeks. I haven't seen Gordon in a while. How are you doing, my friend? Thank you so much for joining us.
If Gordon bops in, I'll pop out.
Oh, you can stay. It's okay. I'm sure he loves you too.
I want to use this break to start my report because
absolutely
this UC Global stuff is really good.
We actually got DDoS offline in the middle of going over the live tweets about UC Global. They took us down, so that was super exciting.
So we're waiting on the full witness statements, but I did a pretty good job of keeping up with them in the notes. The only reason I would want them is because obviously that means I can have the full quotes from the sheet. Right now, I just have a lot of fragmented sentences that are good, but the way it was articulated by both of these witnesses was really impactful. I mean, I appreciated what both of them had to communicate. You could sense from their testimony their alarm at what their company was being asked to do for the U.S. government, that it was completely out of line and not in sync with the standard security that they had normally practiced at the Ecuador embassy, which is what we knew. We knew that all along, that the standard, just so people aren't like just outright demonizing private security in general, we know that from the beginning, it was all about Rafael Correa and his family and protecting them when they were coming and going from the embassy, and having the like standard security that you'd probably get from the Secret Service here in the United States. And then David Morales took it that step but beyond to go ink that contract with Sheldon Adelson to now serve the Trump administration in targeting Julian Assange.
But Kevin, they were just watching a boat.
I love that they made the point that he already had a security contract for the boat. So what was this security contract for the boat? What a terrible cover what a terrible cover to get a security contract for a boat that already has security.
Were they just too cheap to buy another boat?
They should have bought a second boat.
They really should have. They could afford to pay Morales $200,000 a month.
I think they should have built. No, I think we should think to the future and like Elon Musk it, and he should have had a spaceship that he set aside that he is going to launch himself to Mars in, and they
Yeah.
could have provided security for the spaceship that he would
Right.
be leaving.
Right.
And
The first like Space Force embassy or something like that. They could, yeah.
Well, if this
Yeah.
is going the way that it seems, Morales will probably join Newt Gingrich on the moon base soon.
yeah,
They'll be up and out of here.
So something that we've been discussing a little bit, Kevin, and I would love to get your take on this. Now that the UC Global evidence has been read aloud into the court record, do you have any? And I'm going to ask you to speculate, but I would speculatively, what kind of impact is that going to have on Baratzer's decision?
So the fact that they deliberately focus on the way that the legal team was targeted is important, because it shows the effort to undermine attorney-client privilege, and the fact that what I think they're trying to say, which they'll probably make more clear in their closing argument. Let's just so everyone understands, witness statements don't contain the defense arguments. They're just the statements of fact and what events unfolded. And so then they'll connect all of those details together and make a story. And I think their story will be the CIA or US intelligence in general, however they want to put it. But we always understand that to be the CIA. The CIA was backing this security firm in a spying operation against the embassy, and they deliberately wanted to collect any communications that Assange had with his lawyers, any material from meetings, including in the women's bathroom, although I don't think location matters. Wherever it is, it's still wrong to collect those conversations. And they wanted those details so that they could figure out how to maneuver their prosecution and ensure that Julian Assange did not escape their clutches. And to me, that's a pretty clear thing that, well, let's just put it this way. A lot has changed with this country. 50 years ago, that's what Daniel Ellsberg used to get away from going to, that's how he avoided going to prison for revealing the Pentagon Papers. So the question now is, a half century later, does that kind of misconduct by U.S. intelligence agencies matter? I think that's really the critical question at this hour with Vanessa Baraitser. Is this enough for her to reject the extradition request? It certainly, I think there are courts in the U.S. that would quash it, that would still say today, this isn't allowed. You systematically were targeting the legal team. It's happened with Guantanamo prisoners. I mean, even in a war on terrorism context, I've written about the way that I'm well aware of the reporting that's been done about how the legal team for even people who are 9/11 terrorism suspects that are detained at Guantanamo, they were systematically targeted by the CIA so that they could collect attorney-client conversations. And that has been a huge issue for that court down in Guantanamo Bay to deal with. The same can be said for this, that the judge should be outraged that this conduct happened. And I think she should be demanding explanations from the prosecutors for why this happened. What is this? What is this? What were you doing to Julian Assange? If you want me to believe that there's any legitimacy to bringing this prosecution, of course I don't think there is, but if you want me to believe that this should go forward, tell me right now, what was this operation that happened? I have to add that what you should know is yesterday James Lewis said that they would neither be confirming nor denying the veracity of the information that was being entered into the record.
All right.
Because, and it's a lot of bullshit, but because and if you are naive, we should believe Gordon Kromberg, who says there is a Chinese wall between the U.S. Justice Department and any agency implicated in this case, so that they cannot be talking with the CIA about this case during the extradition phase. And so I don't believe any of that, but That's what he represented to the court. That's what he told Judge Peretzer. And they basically are just going to claim to her that all of this evidence is irrelevant to whether Julian Assange committed the crimes. And they basically are just going to claim to
I think we got an echo from Gordon. I think
I think it's something else in the background. Maybe not.
It's us.
Oh, okay.
Gordon, mute.
And
I
also
just gave
turn on
you
your
a
camera.
whole outro, Kevin.
What?
I just gave you a whole outro while I was muted. I know you have to hop off so that way you can get your article and everything started. So I just want to say thank you for joining us on the lunch break again. Let people know where they can find you if they don't already know.
Yeah, just go to shadowproof.com, or I'm on Twitter at KGostola, KGOSZTOLA, doing live updates. Hey, I think we're going to be done tomorrow. That's pretty incredible. I didn't think it would happen. But if you want to mull over something, maybe a defense tactic was to make it seem like they would be totally overwhelmed with witnesses in the last week so that they could have extra time for their closing argument, and then suddenly make all those witnesses go away. And then they got the judge to give them extra time so they can give Julian the best defense. But she wasn't going to give it to him. If they didn't have all these witnesses this week, she was going to make them do closing argument on Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right. I'll see y'all later.
Thank you, sir.
Take care,
Kevin.
Kevin. Thanks.
So how are you, Gordon?
Where are you, Gordon?
I think he's in London or in the
No,
UK.
I mean in terms of being on this stream. I saw the video icon move. I saw like a sideways angle of a chair a few minutes ago.
He's teasing us. He's teasing us.
Are you fucking with me, Dimmick?
I probably have about...
I will turn this stream around right now.
If it's not working, just hit the end call button at the bottom and then rejoin. Sometimes it gets iffy. But I probably have about 5 to 10 minutes before people start showing up here at the office. So I'll wait as long as I can so I can at least say hi to Gordon before I have to bounce.
Okay, and I did talk to Kendra. She should be along in about 20 minutes or something like that.
Okay, cool.
She's got to get her vat of coffee.
Right?
I have an energy drink, and it is not as potent as it was on Monday.
The trick is you have to drink coffee first and then the energy drink.
Are you trying to say you used to do a little and then the little wouldn't do it? So
It wasn't.
more
It's
and
not
more.
even little. It's just more than a lot than it was before.
That was a reference to a terrible Guns N' Roses song called Mr. Brownstone.
I don't know.
Hey. We're getting there.
Can you hear me at all?
Yes.
We can hear you. We can't really see you. We're still looking at the ceiling. I think your camera's frozen.
So I've got 3 cameras and it won't let me choose my
On
main,
the bottom
my
of
main
the
camera.
screen to the right of the hang up button is the camera button. If you click the arrow, it'll give you a drop down menu with all your different camera options.
Yeah, that drop down menu is all blank, mate. I
Weird.
tried that.
What browser are you
Just
using?
no other options.
Chrome unfortunately works best right now.
Yeah, you won't catch me using Chrome, mate.
What are you using?
That'll have to do.
We'll work with it. I just wanted to say hi. I actually have to hop off here because I have to do my 9 to 5. I just didn't want to miss an opportunity to say hello to you, Gordon, because I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it?
It has.
Yeah, we've been keeping in touch, but yeah, it's the first time we've seen each other for a while. How you doing? Okay.
Good. So you told me something I found absolutely amazing over text this morning, that you had a chance to be in the public gallery on Monday. Could you set the scene and talk about what it's like inside the courtroom itself? Because I think you're the first person we've had that's actually been in the public gallery.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I was lucky enough to get one of the spaces on Monday afternoon for the public gallery, one of the 5 spaces at the public gallery. I went in there. I was obviously knew most of the people we went in there with. From the public gallery, you can't see much. It's sort of like an annex. It's almost like a mirror image of the court next door we're in, and we're overlooking the press and obviously there's monitors all around that we can see. Basically, I suppose that's what you can see, or the journalists can see as well, the monitors. So I mean, you know, physically we I suppose we weren't necessarily in the same room. That's for the family, etc. In that room. The courtrooms are very small, but obviously you could see everything that was going on, especially with the press, of which I was really not impressed with, guys. The only time they seemed to, well, I mean, some of them were okay. Some of the people down there, I think there was a guy from Germany who's down there, Max, I think his name is. He's doing a great job. But the BBC reporter was there. You know, they've been there every day, I was told. And there's people from the Associated Press as well. There's one guy reading the Daily Mail who fell asleep on Monday afternoon. One of the journalists reading the Daily Mail fell asleep. You know, there's 2 or 3 of us that can attest to that. So what I saw on Monday afternoon, from what I can tell, and from the obviously I've been down there a couple of times and I've followed it closely. It was I think you guys could test it. It was the worst day for Assange. Monday was. I think Craig Murray said the same thing. So yeah. What I saw on Monday afternoon was the testimony. I think his name was Sickler, and he was the expert sort of on the prison system in the US. And it was, you know, this guy had been woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning. He'd got obviously no sleep, and when I joined in, I think her name was Dobbin for the American side. She was the girl. She was the lady, the QC questioning. I think if QC is the word, and she led him a merry dance. It's, you know, she used every lawyer's trick in the book. You could see he was getting really frustrated with the way that they were treating him. You know, they had kept him waiting for so long. They asked him 20 minutes of questions. They woke him up at 4 o'clock in the morning, had asked him 20 minutes of questions, and then broke for lunch. And then they came back, and I watched it. Within 10 minutes, they were like, do you need another break? And he was at the screen, literally at the screen, going, I don't want a break. Come on, let's get on with this. And you can see that everything that they were doing was trying to get him off balance, try to knock him off kilter. And he did his best, but the you know, I don't think they're called the prosecution, but that lawyer, she earned her money that day, and she led him a merry dance. But even so, he still, you know, gave testimony that, listen, you know, what
we refer to Claire Diamond. She's not a QC yet. Hopefully, she'll never become one after this performance. But we refer to her as Cruella de Vil.
Right, okay.
Her website calls her the most cerebral barrister.
Bro, okay. She's got crazy eyes.
Yeah. I mean,
you were in the room, but like just from the picture, she got some crazy eyes. Hey, did Taylor Hudak tell you that I missed your fucking face?
She did.
Okay.
I saw on Monday. Yeah, we had about 10 minutes, and then I had to leave because I had to catch a train. But yeah, we had a chat for 10 minutes.
Okay, because I'm talking to her later today, and I didn't want to have to yell at her.
No, she's fine. Honestly, mate, she's fine, and she speaks very highly of you guys. As she should do.
So I do have to get going. I'm sitting at my 9 to 5, and the guys are about to come in. But I would like to thank you. We will continue. I am just leaving myself. I put the article from the Gray Zone about Sheldon Adelson's head of security being called into the Jitsi chat. If you guys want to go over that, if not, we'll go over it sometime in the future. But thank you very much, Nikki and Gordon, for joining us. Thank you, Steve and Josh, for keeping this going, even after I have to pop off. And preemptive thank you to Kendra for hopping in.
Yeah, and again, Kendra should be on in about like 10 minutes or so now.
Yeah, so awesome. I will keep watching. I'll probably be in chat. I just can't be on camera.
So, Gordon, what's your take? What's your take on the UC Global testimony that was allowed in at the 11th hour today?
From what I can tell, it's going to be these are going to be anonymous witnesses, isn't it? Because they're scared for their life. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, the 2 statements that were read out loud in court just before the break here, one was the former co-owner of UC Global, and I honestly believe that his name has already been disclosed in El País and the Gray Zone.
And they're keeping it under wraps in the. I literally just jumped on, so I'm not aware of the of what he said. Let me just get onto the feed.
Is there only one co-owner? Perhaps there's others.
They said 50% co-owner.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
And Morales was the other
other
half of
50%.
that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go digging for it because
No, just going for the going towards the anonymity. If his
yeah,
name has already been revealed.
I'm pretty sure it's already been released.
Right.
But the second witness was the one who was speaking more freely about the potential assassination attempts on Julian Assange. The second witness was the guy who was instructed to go root around in the trash for a fucking used diaper so that they can test it for Imagine you go through like the military and you come out and you get a job for a private security firm, and you're there ostensibly to like make sure that the president of Ecuador and his diplomatic staff are safe and that no harm comes to their families. And one afternoon you get a phone call and they're like, hey, I'm gonna need you to go outside and I need you to dig through every trash can within a block in either direction of the embassy, and I want you to grab all the used diapers you can, and I want you to put them in a bag, and I want you to send them to me so that we can test them. Like,
turning their stripes, that is, isn't it? It's so funny. On Monday when I was there, Steve, what Dobbin was actually was talking to Sickler about, and what she kept going over and over again was that actually the court system in America is not that bad, and Assange is probably only going to get a few months in prison, and actually, there are cases where the prison inmates don't want to leave when it comes to their end of the term, and to which Sickler actually responded. To which Sickler actually responded, and I swear this is it verbatim. He said, "Yeah, I'm sure they don't want to get out of there. I can't imagine why people want to leave." And yet they're doing all this, and he's been incarcerated. Well, let's say, face it, he's been in detention for a decade. And they were essentially trying to say on Monday, he's only going to get a few months in prison. The prison system's wonderful. It's like a Holiday Inn.
Yeah. They've got 13-inch color TVs and arts
bingo.
And crafts.
And bingo.
There's prison bingo. I mean, what, 3 meals a day? What more can you ask for, really?
Is my camera not working?
Not currently.
We can hear you fine, though.
According to my browser, it's working, but...
What browser are you using?
Firefox.
Firefox should work. Weird. We do it live.
Yeah, the notion that a U.S. Supermax prison is basically like, an all-male retreat.
I've done it.
Still not
or
seeing
some kind of like resort. I
don't know anyone that's ever gone to any, like, whether it's county, prison, whatever it is. They don't want to stay there. Whether it's 2 days or 2 months, they don't want to be there.
That's essentially the angle of attack that she took on Monday was that the prison system, and I mean one of the lines of attack she was using is very the way she leads the witness as well. A lot of what you got the impression that Sickler was just going okay to her statement, just to move things along because she was getting so frustrated with what Dobbin was doing. It was, it was. It's what it is. It's they know what they're doing, and it's pathetic.
What have you been up to lately, Gordon?
Well, I'm preparing, Steve. I'm preparing for because I'm leaving the realms of YouTube, and I'm preparing to restart and relaunch new website, etc. It's I might go live tonight actually and tell everybody about it. So,
All right.
I'm looking forward to it. But obviously, over the last few weeks, all I've been trying to do is just keep up as much as possible on the news, because it's it's pretty crazy. You know, the one story that should be front and center is being kept quiet, and that's this one.
You know, I mean, it really is. I don't talk to too many people that are like outside of this world on a day-to-day basis, but when I do, I bring it up, and they look at me like there's fucking a tree growing out of my neck. We're like, huh? Court? You what? I'm like, yeah. You know that thing that you like where people have the ability to report on whatever they want to report on and show you, you know, primary source documentation. That's not going to happen anymore unless you start giving a fuck about this. And they're like, okay, well, The Bachelor's on tonight, or like, you know, it's fucking
Live in a cartoon.
dude. And it's California, so it's like a super expensive on fire cartoon.
Right.
All right, I'm going to rejoin and try and fix this camera.
All right.
Okay. I know.
Interesting how many
I'm so
technical
tired.
problems people are having today, joining and staying on, and
Yeah,
Well,
it's amazing.
It's been pretty smooth sailing on these early morning broadcasts.
until UC Global.
Until UC Global
Right?
entered into the mix.
So now I get to do a servant audit after this, which is going to be super fun.
There's
Joy.
probably like another 65,000 attempted logins on the.
Oh, dude, I get that every 12 to 24 hours, something like that.
Wow.
It's insanity. You can't get in with a password, so they can try all they fucking want. But yeah, it's pretty cartoonish.
Dude.
Yeah, that one time, dude, I got 40. I think it was 45,000 in like, I don't know, 4 hours, something like this, some crazy shit. I was like, whoa.
45,000 attempted logins.
Yeah, failed login attempts in about 4 hours.
Oh my god!
It was insanity. I was like, whoa, shit. I've made some friends.
Well,
and I think that was a particularly like heavy vigil night too.
Yeah, I think that's when we had that was around no, this is before that. That was around the Eva Bartlett thing.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
It was around those times. Oh man, yeah, like I couldn't even get back on. Like they had to start the stream on their side. There's Gordon.
They don't want her talking, that's for sure.
No.
So to Martin O'Connor in the chat, it's not that Beratzer is going to argue the UC Global witness revelations in no way change anything. It's that the prosecution will. Beratzer, although she's given a few like assists to the prosecution, I don't think she's actually a paid member of the prosecution. But I don't have, you know, her finances in front of me.
We need the documents. Any leakers?
Right. Well, it sucks that Gordon's having problems connecting.
Yeah, he needs to get off Firefox and use it as a browser.
He's stubborn.
No, I get it. Oh, we can see him now. No, Firefox is fine.
Hey, there you are.
It's still not working now, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
We see you.
It is.
Yeah, you're
Okay,
good.
that's great. All right, I can turn this off now. Hi, everybody.
Yay! It's good to see you, Gordon, in the flesh. Well, as close as we get.
Right. Solitary Reaper says, I thought the UC Global thingy was tomorrow. What changed? What changed is at the end of the day yesterday, they brought it to the judge. Well, in the morning, they brought it to the judge's attention. They had two witnesses who needed to remain anonymous that wanted to add their statements to this case, and it directly related to UC Global. At the end of the day, there was some debate over it. The prosecution stated for the record that they weren't going to honor or include anything revolving around UC Global. They were just going to pretend like it never happened, and that oh God, what was it? There was something like extra stupid about it. Oh, the Berater instructed the U.S. government to not include themselves in any of the preparation for the testimony revolving around UC Global. So what that does to closing arguments for the prosecution, again, means they have to pretend that the whole UC Global stuff never existed in the first place.
That's going to be really difficult considering that there's a court case in Italy about it.
Yeah, well, the U.S. government is trying to like block all information about it, and they're trying to hold up the subpoena that was just issued to the head of security for the Sands, the former CIA agent who now works for Sheldon Adelson, who was like the liaison between the CIA and David Morales.
And Sheldon Adelson, he's Trump's biggest donor.
Trump's biggest donor and multi-billionaire and ultra hardcore Zionist, and probably the reason that the Golan Heights got renamed after Donald Trump.
Doesn't sound horrible at all.
Everything's fine.
Right. Just a little Palestinian genocide in the morning. I mean, it's 2020. This is just shit we put up with. Fuck.
Yeah, I'm such a hypocrite. I say I'm from the George Scarlett Carlin school of symbols are for the symbol-minded. Let even I've got a little Palestinian flag that I put on my.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's be honest. You're a little bit closer to the issue than most of us.
Yeah, I'm just not one for symbols. I see what's going on in America at the moment, and I think a lot of what's going on with these statues, etc., is symbolism, and it's no real change is going to happen. It's just symbolic change. But
most of those damn statues went up in like the 60s and shit. Like, who gives a crap? Just get rid of them.
They were an FU to the civil rights movement, weren't they? They were like, FU, we're gonna do what we want to do.
Yeah, most of them were between 1900 and 1920, like post Reconstruction, and right around the time that women were getting the right to vote in the turn of the 1900s, solid almost 125 years after the country was founded. That was also around the time of the firebombing of Tulsa, which was the Black Wall Street, and there was some serious retaliation going on in centers of black wealth. So all of these statues kept getting put up as a reminder of who was really in charge, and a lot of them were incredibly rushed and poorly made. And there's two ways to look at the statue thing, and one is that it's possible that you should recognize monuments of the past, because that way you can maybe, hopefully, eventually prevent repeating those same mistakes. And the other one is it's a whitewashed version of a false history of fucking conquest by white supremacy, and maybe they shouldn't be there. I don't know. The argument that like you're destroying history is just dumb as fuck to me, because who looks at a statue to understand history? That's what books and people are for.
And what's that quote? We don't know our own history type of deal. I forgot who said it.
Yeah. Americans, as a rule, don't know our own history, let alone the history of other countries, and that's entirely on purpose. It's 70 fucking year long war on education, just so that we never have as informed an electorate as we did from the mid 50s through the 70s.
I've got some hope there though. My daughter's history teacher last year, he gave them the actual truth about Columbus. Like, he did not stick to the goddamn textbook. So I think some of the younger teachers are starting to kind of rebel against that a little bit, and that gives me a little bit of hope.
Yeah, that guy's getting fired next semester.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Does he still have a job?
Actually, he's actually a really liked teacher, so it could go either way. But yeah, they're gonna find some weird thing. Like, he killed babies. He's a baby killer.
Yeah.
That's good shit. I'm sorry.
So are they? They're obviously broken for lunch now. Are they? They're until 2 p.m.
Yeah.
In the court. I read a statement out by Chomsky. I saw.
Yeah, and really the shame of a witness statement written by Noam Chomsky being read aloud in court is that nobody who's live tweeting wants to fuck it up, or misquote it. So they're all like, okay, well, I'm just gonna take a lot of notes, and then during the break maybe I'll be able to summarize it and put it together. But there's no real update. Like, we've had a couple of quotes from it, and I think maybe at this point Kevin Gostola he's had a half an hour since he's been here, so it's possible that he's got some stuff down. But
who else's statements are we expecting this afternoon? Because I think it's all statements.
There's live testimony this afternoon, from what I understand.
Okay, all right.
Let me go back to Assange defense. No, but Chomsky categorized. Where did it go? There was a good quote. Dude, was it on Kevin's thread? God damn it!
It's all a blur.
I'm just reading the witness one statement here, Steve, recounting the spying operation. Witness one recounting the spying operation on Assange in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Morales says he was providing reports to a US intelligence agency, particular zeal in recording Assange's conversations with his lawyers. Isn't this what Nixon ended up getting brought down for? This sort of thing?
Yeah. This is basically this is a step further than what Nixon's crew did.
Proper HD TV, access to a server, 24-hour live coverage, isn't it?
Yeah, Nixon had his goons break into Ellsberg's psychiatrist's office and steal his shrink's notes. And then, of course, they were going to use that to leverage against him. But we're 40, 50 years removed from that, and our justice system has become nothing if not more draconian.
Yeah.
So,
and not just that. I mean, high-profile people are just disappearing, aren't they? Let's face it. Then, and people even know the date that they're going to get suicided. Some of them. I seem to remember a joke about Epstein. Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, no,
I'm not saying that she offed him, by the way. That's not what I was what I was aiming at then. It was just
Well, I
a
don't think
joke
that
about
Hillary
him
would go
getting
into
things
Manhattan
sends
Correctional
her
Center on
regards to
her
his
own
suicide.
anyway.
Sorry?
Well, I don't think Hillary would do her own dirty work in the first place.
No,
No.
not at all. Not-
She usually asks other people to drone them. Remember the cables when she wanted
Why don't we
Yeah,
just
no.
drone this guy?
Yeah.
When I was in the court on Monday, you could see that this was what Sickler was trying to what he was getting so frustrated with, because that's the sort of thing he wanted to obviously come back and say. How can you say, Assange is going to get treated well in the US? Look at their system, and yeah, she was trying to paint it like it was a Holiday Inn. It was a beautiful piece of lawyering. It really was. But I will say this: if what I've heard, especially from Craig Murray and the rest of the people that day, that was the worst day for the defense. If that's the worst day, then he shouldn't have anything to worry about.
Yeah, no, and it
Because-
was by far the worst day. Just from reading the exchanges and from talking to Kevin and talking to Mo afterwards, it really seemed like Sickler was apathetic about the whole thing.
He
And
was
that maybe
frustrated.
because they woke him up early and he was sleepy.
Exactly. And they wouldn't let him say what he wanted to say, what they wanted to say. You could see that they were limiting him to yes and no answers, and he was getting frustrated. And like I say, many times she would give a really long-winded question, and he was like, okay, because you got the impression that he just wanted to move things along. They were really frustrating him, and it worked. But like I say, if that's the worst, if that's the best they've got, he shouldn't have anything to worry about. My worry is the fix is in on it. But
Well, look at the change in tactics, and also good morning, Kendra. It's nice to see you.
Hi, Kendra.
Looking incredibly professional this morning.
It's the blazer.
Yes, it is. That's exactly what it is. But they started out this trial going, well, it's okay if we prosecute Julian Assange because he's not a journalist. And then there were 3 days of solid testimony about how he is, in fact, a journalist. And they were like, well, it's okay if he's a journalist because the U.S. has every right to prosecute journalists. And then there was significant pushback on that. So they were like, well, okay, well, we're not prosecuting him because he's a journalist. We're prosecuting him because he released the names of informants. And that's bad. And then it came out in the course of the testimony that no, he did not release the name of informants. If anyone did, it's David Lee. And so they went, well, okay, but U.S. prisons are luxury camps, and we're actually going to be doing him a favor by bringing him to ADX Florence because it's boatloads nicer than where he is now. I mean, have you seen Belmarsh? They call that place the Guantanamo Bay of the United Kingdom. We've got to get him over here for his own sake. And that's basically where they've left this shit. They have no fucking case.
That's a great summary,
really,
by the way.
of course, Steve, this is also why the superseding indictments as well. This also explains them, because their argument keeps shifting as it keeps getting blown out of the water. They have no case, but here we are.
Have they led any evidence on the superseding indictments?
No,
or have
they
just
can't.
forgotten?
They can't. They had to submit their skeleton arguments to the judge. It was only in relation to the first superseding indictment, which is why we've heard testimony about the Espionage Act and why this is a criminalization of journalism, because the first and only charge on the 11th, when they had him illegally removed, was the conspiracy to commit computer intrusion. And then in May, they hit him with the Espionage Act charges, and that was the first superseding indictment. While he was rearrested on the second superseding indictment on the day the hearings resumed on September 7th, both the defense and the prosecution had already submitted their skeleton arguments. So we haven't even begun to hear testimony about the second indictment which is something the U.S. would prefer, because if we talked about it in open court at the Old Bailey, then people would know who Sigur Thordarson really
But
is.
hang on. They haven't. Neither side has led evidence on the superseding indictments. Okay. All right. And the court is about to close on Friday, and there will be closing arguments. So, at what point after the closing of the court are they going to reopen it? Are they going to reopen the court?
The hope is that nobody has to discuss the second superseding indictment until they get to the Eastern District of Virginia, where all the testimony is going to be closed, because Sabu and Siggy are the principal government witnesses for that, and both of them are publicly known as paid FBI informants.
That's interesting though, because I didn't that part I didn't understand. I figured that they would have to at some point address the superseding indictment, like now, whether it was, you know, through closing arguments or
I mean, they may, but we're not going to know until November 16th what if we actually do get to know what closing arguments are. I still don't know if these are going to be presented verbally or if they're going to be written.
I think they're meant to be written, I think, but I could be wrong.
Gordon, do you know?
I don't know. I don't know whether they're written or verbal.
If they're verbal, we have a chance of what we're doing here now, which is, you know, keeping up with the live feeds, but if they're written, then we've got to wait until somebody files an FOI or somebody, you know.
No, they can publish them. It's part of the public trial.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where the transcripts are paid for by the prosecution and the defense.
But if they are written closing arguments and they are tendered to the court, and the court is supposedly a public court, you know, open justice, open hearing, then there's no problem with the defense at least publishing both, because they will have the prosecutors written closing arguments as well. I don't see a problem with publishing both sides of the closing arguments. It's part of the public trial, which is supposedly only closed because of COVID, supposedly.
I mean, I don't disagree in principle, but in practice, we've seen incredibly different behavior. Like, we're supposed to be able to access the transcripts, but they have to be each witness.
No, the transcripts we can't access because they are privately owned. They are not in the hands of the court. They have been organized by the defense, and then the prosecution paid half of it. So that's a bit complicated because the court can't order a privately made transcript to be released to the public.
Then it's not a public hearing. If the transcripts are private, if the only recorded evidence of what took place.
They can be reported if both sides, I mean, I'm just, assuming that if both sides agree that there's no obstacle to publishing the transcripts when they're ready to be published. But that's why what I want to do is FOI the CVP recordings, if any exist, because that is in the hands of the court. That's the court that's organizing the live streaming. And so I just don't know if they're recording the video, the live streaming videos. And if they're not recording, is there a way to find a backup copy or something? I mean, there must be something left in the cloud or something in the court system or the court records to do with the live streaming. So I'm going to try and get those. I'm going to try and get anything that the court has related to the live streaming, the CVP, whatever it's called, cloud, something.
Cloud video platform.
Yeah. So I'm going to see what records they have from the cloud video platform, and I will FOI those.
Well, I can tell you on what I saw on Monday from what the journalists, I use the term lightly, who were there seemed to be interested in. I can tell you from what I saw. There was little to very little activity going on among them, apart from the one guy, that German guy. Let me get his name actually, because he was really good. I could see he was following proceedings. He was tweeting stuff out. I think he was live tweeting. Yeah, he was really good. Let me just get his name. Dustin Hoffman. His name is Max. I don't know where I got Max from. So he was one of the journalists. He was really good. Apart from that, there were a guy from a lady from the Associated Press, not really paying attention. The BBC guy really was sitting there, not really paying attention. They were pretty much all just watching along. The one guy was eating strawberries. The only time they ever really all started tapping furiously was anything that came up with regard to Julian Assange's health or mental health. And whenever the camera panned round to show Julian, you could see that they were all looking then, because you could see they wanted a glimpse of him to say, Assange wearing a blue suit or whatever it is, whatever the byline is. That's all they really cared about, was what was he wearing and anything to do with his mental health. Other than that, they were sitting back.
Yes, well, those journalists are
great journalists.
Apart from that, those journalists, this is something that nobody wants to touch upon, and I don't know why. Now, those journalists belong to media that is on the joint committee of the DSMA, the D-Notice people, the Ministry of Defense. And, people get, they wet their pants in terror when I mention the DSMA. Somebody has to do an investigative piece on how all of that works. And it's not difficult, because if you go on the DSMA site, they have a lot of it up there. It's public knowledge. A lot of this is public knowledge. And it's definitely public knowledge that a lot of these, including the BBC, which should not be on such a committee because it's publicly funded. So a lot of these big honchos in the media business are in bed with the Ministry of Defense, irrespective of whether it's also disguised as something else that is supposedly an independent body. It's funded, this DSMA committee is funded by the Ministry of Defense, but they manipulate the language to make it look at something as something independent. But if you look at their minutes of meeting, their meetings are held in the building of the Ministry of Defense. So all of this information is on their site, which is public, and no journalist that I've mentioned this to wants to go there. So these particular journalists that turn up to take up seats and only look at, the way Julian dresses and whether he's a kook, are there to do a job that is possibly directed in some way, whether overtly or covertly or in, I don't know in what way. But, there's a reason why those people are on that joint committee. And somebody needs to explore that.
The one journalist was there. I don't know what outlet he was. I could find out. I know somebody who was definitely going to find out. So I probably, he was reading a copy of the Daily Mail and eating strawberries, like I said, during lunch. He literally fell asleep. Literally, he fell asleep during, greatest thing for press freedom. He just fell asleep. And I got the impression that either he was really crap and they chose him on that basis because he was crap, or he was given a remit. Listen, we only want to know what he's wearing and what his mental health is. That's all. We just want the tabloidy stuff that we can write our tabloidy stuff with, and we don't really give a crap about anything else. And you mentioned the DSMA, the committee. This is the Defence Advisory Committee, isn't it?
Yeah.
There are, to give the other side, and you know me, I do like to be fair. There are occasions where a defence advisory notice is warranted, and this is a committee that I think does or did good work. For instance, during the Iraq, you can argue the merits of being over there, of course, in the first place, but during the Iraq and Afghanistan conflicts, there was a DSA or DSMA notice, DSA notice as it was called back then, on roadside bombs and how the British troops were avoiding roadside bombs in Afghanistan and Iraq. It was a simple thing that they were doing, and it was really rather clever, and they were going to print it, but obviously this gives away, the enemy that will then know how you're actually getting around their roadside bomb attacks. So there are occasions where, in the name of defence, that a DSA notice is warranted. However, this has been a system that has been abused more and more, and over the last few years, it's a clique, and there's a revolving door in this notice as well. One of the guys that was on it from the MOD side ended up going, and I noticed he was running a radio station after he left the army, and this radio station got a massive grant from the British Army for him to promote the British Army, etc. So you can see there's a real revolving door that's going on there. There's a great group called Spinwatch over here that does fantastic work on it. Has written all about it. I'm sure you're aware of, Katya. But the DSMA notice, yeah, it's horrible, it's insidious, and it is being abused for sure. But there are times when those notices are warranted. So.
But I think that the ethics that bind journalists in any case should be sufficient. There are codes of ethics that bind journalists in the written press and journalists in the broadcast area. I think I've looked at both of those codes of ethics in the UK, and I think it's sufficient to cover what ethics journalists should be abiding by, and I don't see why the Ministry of Defence should have a say over that unless they want to also draft a code of ethics. But anyway, in any case, I did try to FOI the DSMA, and they told me to go away. And then I found the information on Wikipedia, believe it or not, that I was trying to FOI. And I have a screenshot of that if anyone wants to look at that. But a lot of denotices have to do with WikiLeaks since 2010. Since the collateral murder video, there's been quite a few denotices that relate to WikiLeaks.
And Syria and Skripals and
yeah. I'm just saying that I was looking specifically for what denotices were emitted in relation to WikiLeaks, and as I said, it is a bit of a Mickey Mouse thing because I didn't expect to find the information on Wikipedia of all places.
Of course, other news organisation would be very happy about that because let's face it, if they were doing their job, they would be having those notices too, wouldn't they?
If they were doing their job, they would be abiding by their codes of ethics, and we wouldn't need all this superfluous. They just all they have to do. The code of ethics is actually for both the printed press and the media that's online or broadcast. They're quite solid. The rules in there are quite solid. Why would you need the Ministry of Defence to interfere? If somebody is committing an ethical breach, then you deal with it that way.
You can see, for instance, if there was a story that, there are several instances, but that one with the roadside bombs really does stick out because I think it was quite ingenious the way that we were getting around those bombs, and that's why that DSA notice was put out. We were going to run the story. It's okay saying code of ethics, but Fleet Street is where our media has historically been, and ethics and Fleet Street, these two things don't mix. So you can see where, I certainly can anyway, I think. I can see where, in the name of, national defence, you would basically stop them reporting on that.
If it's defense.
Like I say, that's the only instance I can see. There were several instances of DSMA notices being put on. For instance, the Skripals after they were poisoned, and et cetera, and as you mentioned, WikiLeaks. So all those instances, they're not needed, and it's a considerable overreach by the military doing that, and their silence in the media, free speech, etc. I totally agree with you. But I'm just saying that I'm sure there are instances where the media would report something, for instance, totally innocuously, maybe, you know, an informant abroad, and maybe that would bring down an operation that the military are doing against, I don't know, some drug dealer in Afghanistan. But you can see that there will be instances where, hold on a minute, don't report on that because, you know, it'll bring down a much bigger thing that we're working on. And that's just in my mind. I can see it. I don't think ethics is just going to cover, you know, that one thing, because especially as the media do dumb stuff, especially ours.
Well, okay.
I'm just being the other side
Yeah,
of
yeah. No, we're having a discussion. So of course, you know, we're having a discussion.
I feel
I'm
like
just
our
saying
dumb
that,
stuff is endearing and their dumb stuff is dangerous.
yeah. Well, first of all,
I totally agree, Steve. I really do. But I'm just trying to be the other side of the coin and trying to just say, listen, you know,
I love contrarian gimmick. I do. I do.
To have discussion, you know, where did that go?
yeah.
Hey, but I did find this, you guys, and I know we were talking about this earlier. But the judge, Baretzer, ruled Friday, so there will be no closing speeches in the hearing. She accepted the proposal initially put forward by counsel for the U.S. government. The closing argument should simply be submitted in writing without an oral hearing. This was accepted by the defense as they need time to address the new superseding indictment in closing arguments.
Okay.
And she said, hold on. Yeah, so it sounds like it will be written arguments only. So
That's such a fucking shame, man.
And that's how, I guess for the defense, though, that's how they were able to gain the further 3 weeks to work on the closing.
Well, if I was doing a closing argument on this shit show, I'd be saying no evidence was led on the superseding indictments. Goodbye.
Right. Yeah.
No case to answer. No
Yeah.
case to answer.
Yeah.
It's simple. If they lead no evidence on the superseding indictments, that's it. That's the end of the story for those. Then I'd be saying, and in fact, you dropped the first indictment and had to rearrest my client on the other indictments that you led no evidence on. So goodbye.
Does that mean technically he was held all that time in our Guantanamo Bay and then the charges were dropped?
Yeah.
I think I would be arguing that they actually, whether they meant to or not, that they did drop the first indictment. I would be arguing that.
Well, that's
And
why
then, therefore, I would
why
be
the way
arguing
that they worded
that my client was unlawfully imprisoned, maliciously prosecuted, tortured. I would be going for the jugular.
Sure.
I don't have the whole file in front of me, so I'm only going on the basis of snippets. However, it seems to me, from what I see, the little that I see, that we're in a weird situation where they've led, as far as we know anyway, they've left no evidence on the superseding indictments, and I don't know how they can support them. With what?
Right. And what could they lead evidence? You can't lead evidence in a closing argument, right?
Well, no, you can't lead evidence. A closing argument basically goes over the whole thing. You say, well, these are the, you say this is the evidence, these were the arguments, and we support this particular, we support this particular stance, and the judge should decide X, Y, and Z on the basis of the evidence before.
And then a superseding indictment is not evidence.
Well, no, not by itself.
Exactly.
Evidence means facts. An indictment is allegations. They've made allegations and then evidence, facts, or expert opinions as to the facts. Then that's what evidence means. You have to present factual matter that then the judge and then of course in the closing arguments will be looking at questions of law as well, like does the treaty of 2007 exclude political offences? So the closing arguments will be looking at questions of fact and questions of law.
Right. So exactly. And then there's not even time for them to issue any evidence for
and
that.
That's their fault, because they were the ones that were insisting on
Okay, but all the superseding indictment does is expand the scope of
Right.
the charges that have already been submitted.
Yeah, but they
So
led
it
no
doesn't
evidence.
add any new charges. It doesn't take away any old charges. All it does is tack on testimony from Sabu and Siggy, and then tries to uh pull Sarah Harrison and anyone else involved in assisting Ed Snowden get out of Hong Kong into this hearing. And it also tries to like re-entrap
But all
anyone
of that
who
is
didn't get caught
speculative.
from anonymous back
Who
then.
gave evidence? Did Sabu give evidence? I mean, who
Yeah,
gave evidence?
apparently.
Was Sabu cross-examined? I mean,
No.
did any of these people give evidence? I mean, how many did?
Well, you got to remember that the
And
superseding
were any
indictment
of
was
them
released to the
cross-examined?
press on June 24th. It wasn't released to the court until August 15th.
Yeah, I understand. I understand
I
the
mean,
whys and the
like,
wherefores. I'm you know, I'm not.
it-
I'm not. I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm
I
just
think
trying
it
to
doesn't make sense to you because it doesn't make sense from a
to
legal
anybody.
perspective, and it doesn't make sense from just staring at it as a layperson.
It
But
doesn't
when-
make sense from a
Sorry.
logical perspective either. None of this
No,
makes sense at all.
no,
This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
How
You're
can
the
journalism
upside
be on
down.
trial and
yeah.
nobody be talking about this? Is
Mm.
I totally can understand why people are confused about this. I totally can, because I think that's, you say, Steve, that's what they do now. They,
Yeah.
they're just trying to confuse everybody and keep them off guard.
Well, we need more of the alternative media, including you, Gordon, to be talking about this. So I'm glad you're going on PeerTube and resetting your station.
Well, I'm glad you people like the conversation then instead of like this, because that's what I intend to do. Talk. I intend to talk to people and just try and there's everybody's so divided, and it's like they don't realize it's done like that on purpose, because if ever Black Lives Matter and the Proud Boys realize they're not each other's enemy, there's going to be hell to pay as soon as they realize, oh wait, no, it's them up there. That's where we need to turn our attention to. People are just getting divided, and there's so much. And not only that, the only way we're communicating, or the majority of the way people are communicating, especially during this pandemic, has been social media. It's the worst way to talk to people. On Twitter, you don't talk to people, you literally talk at them. How can talking at people be a good way to communicate? It's the worst. And 280 characters, how many times have we written a tweet and somebody taken it way out of context and ended up hating you and cancelling you because they just got something out of context that you wrote in 280 characters? It's the worst way of communicating.
Oh no, I mean, of course you can't. Of course, people can't communicate. But I think at least I'm aware of the fact that people have not been able to expound on their position in whatever. How many characters is it? 240.
280. Well, it was 140. But I mean, the news we've got at the moment, most of it, it's terrible. You guys have seen it. They sit a politician down, and in 5 or 10 minutes, they're trying to, just catch them out, and you can see it's just a sparring match. People don't sit down and talk. We need to sit down and talk to each other rather than just trying to battle each other in a constant, I really wish people would just sit down and listen and talk, because especially with regards to this case, if you sat down to people and talked to them, especially those who've been misinformed on purpose by our governments,
government and media. They've been misinformed by the government.
There's no daylight between government and media anymore.
You're right.
There's
not here. That's for sure.
Functionaries of the state in nice clothes. Fucking, look. And if you go, the thing that lockdown did, and the thing that only communicating via social media for the last several years has done, is in many cases, at least based on my own personal observation and interaction, It is transformed person-to-person conversations into a fucking Facebook or Twitter argument where you will have people who speak in buzzwords, slogans, and catchphrases at you. Like
That's why
while
it's
you're
good to have
trying to have a
slow
conversation
news.
with them.
Slow news, slow conversation, deep
Yeah.
and slow conversation where we get into deep subjects
Good guys
and
take their
discuss
time.
them slowly with care and thought. That's why I follow you guys.
Well, that's what we need more of.
Yeah.
That's the way to combat this era of fake news and this era of cancel culture or whatever it's called. And people,
I've had people shout fake news in my face. And I'm like, you realize that we're not on Twitter, right? Like, I'm standing right here. One, you don't have to yell. Two,
I've become a fascist commie.
let's each pull out our surveillance devices, and I'll go look up what I just said, and you go look up what I just said, and we'll see if what I just said is true. You know, and fucking, well, it depends on the source. And it's like, look, if you're going to source shame before you know where I'm headed with this, then you've already fucking lost, because all source shaming does is prove that you don't have a fucking argument to begin with. So how about you just listen?
I think too, though, with like Twitter and different mediums like this, I mean, and this is just a thought throwing this out, though, I think that even realizing what they are, I don't think that makes you immune to basically degrading yourself. You know, I mean, myself, like wanting to respond with like a smiley face, or you know what I mean, things like this, and I do, and it kind of makes me a little sick to my stomach. You know?
I've lost track of how many times I've woke up in the morning and think, oh God, did I really say that last night? I feel dirty. I need a shower. Smiley face, hashtag black, me too, or whatever it was. I get it. We're not immune to it. We're just people, and I've tried really hard this year to stop hating on people on Twitter as well, and stop shouting at people, and obviously tagging some article of millions of babies dead whenever Madeleine Albright speaks on it. But you see what I'm trying to withdraw from, trying hopefully to I hope that after this sort of alternative facts era that we're sort of in at the moment, which we will come out of, I hope that what comes out of that is a more adult place and a better place where we can sit down and discuss not just ideas that people actually think are good. Like, I don't know, I mean, I assume Steve's in America. I don't think Americans realize that most of you understand that single payer healthcare would be a good thing to do right now, especially since the rest of the world do. But not just the things that everybody agrees with, but also talk about things that we don't agree with as well, and talk to the people that they do want to shut up at the moment, and they do want to silence, and they do want to deplatform, etc. on Twitter. I never want to see anybody doing that. No matter what people's viewpoint, there's always an argument against it, and just shutting people up like that is going to end up, what you do is you push them into their little bubbles where they collect and they fester with their other people, and before you know it, they're in an echo chamber where all these people see is a Facebook group about, I don't know, the Proud Boys, etc., and QAnon, blah 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 blah. And this is why we're in a situation now where we're hating each other. We are so segregated as a society, and we have to come through it. And we have to go. The way to come through it is by having an actual conversation and stop talking at people in 280 characters and think that's going to solve the universe, because it's just not.
Well, don't forget
that was a great rant.
That platforms like Facebook and Twitter have the 77th Brigade, right? At least in the UK, it's the 7th. I mean, there's lots of trolls, and they're the ones who, stir up the trouble. And people haven't quite learned to, put up a meme that says "troll detected." So that's what I do nowadays.
sideswipe the conversation and move the conversation off into what they want you to talk about. You know, it's I'm going to. I'm hoping I'm going to pull away from it and be able to pull away from it. That's what I'm certainly planning
No,
on
but
doing.
stay on those platforms, but go on Mastodon, go on alternative platforms as well. I think Slow News is going, right? Josh said that you've set up an account on Mastodon, right?
I'm pretty sure I already set it up. It's just
So yeah, go
busy.
on the alternative. They can't censor you on Mastodon and Gibberfish. There's lots of alternative social media platforms that are where you get much more intelligent conversation. Of course, there's other ones that are really shitty like Gab, but I personally like Mastodon a lot.
I've had some really in-depth conversations on Mastodon. People tend to listen more over there, which to Gordon's point, like, we don't spend enough time listening. I'm guilty of this just as much as everyone else, and like that's a good point. We need to listen to not only the things we like, but the things we don't necessarily
and I
agree
think
with.
there's less trolls as well. I haven't come across any trolls.
I've had some issues over there, but by far I have better conversations over there with people. It's more personal, I guess. It's just a smaller community, so.
Well, you can have a bot. You don't have to be there all the time. You can have a bot like WikiLeaks has. I think it's WikiLeaks. Yeah, I think they have bot. The Grey Zone Project people, they have bots. So George Galloway has bots.
Yeah, there's
so you can, set up a bot.
Ben Norton's got a bot on there too.
Yeah. I think Unity maybe Unity for J has a bot, so you don't have to actually go back and forth from one platform to the other. If you set up a bot and you can tweet something on Twitter, and then the bot does its work somewhere else.
These social media companies are going to have a hard time in the next few years anyway. Because I mean, the amount of information that they're harvesting from the population of each nation is insane, and that alone you could call a national security threat. Just because this is private companies that are harvesting information on millions of us, and they have proved that you cannot trust them with that information. They have proved that they will not just not safeguard that information and other people can take it, but they've proved that they will sell it to the highest bidder. And if I was to go after and go to war with another country and want to destabilize another country, what's the first place? I mean, historically, what's the first place you go out? You go out, you try and go out the airwaves and you try and get into the psyche of the population. And when you've got all this information on people, it can be used against the population, and not only that, but it can be used by unscrupulous people to try and get money out of you and scam you with scam phone calls and scam emails. The more obviously people know about you, the easier it is to be able to push the button and to say the right thing for you to click on that link and to go through to the phishing site, which is going to take all your details, your bank details, etc. So all of these things are going to have to come up in the next few years, because what's happened is social media has exploded. And at the end of when we signed on to social media, we just clicked I agree, when the fact of the matter is those terms that we're agreeing with, they could be the entire we could have just agreed with the entirety of Mein Kampf for all we know. We just wanted to get on Facebook and throw a digital sheep at somebody. And before you know it, you've given all your information away to the highest bidder. So all of this is going to have to come into, we're going to have to start talking about this in the coming years. So these social media companies are going to have problems anyway, especially the multinational ones, the global ones, the big ones. We can't have companies controlling what we can and can't say. We cannot have in Great Britain, I'm sorry, we can't. In Great Britain, in England, anywhere in the world, we cannot be dictated what we can and can't say in the virtual town hall by some hippie in Silicon Valley. We just cannot.
Okay, well, look at the DSMA, the latest meetings published about social media. The DSMA wants to get their hands on social media. So I've got a screenshot of the clause. I can send it to Steve if you want. Yeah, you want so yeah, there's a whole clause about how are they going to get their hands onto the social media platforms.
Well, I've just given you why they want to, and obviously they're going to abuse it, and they're going to abuse it.
Of course they will.
They are, and that's why we've got to be aware of what they're going to do next, because this is what they're going to go for. And
one way we have been aware of what they do, what they have done, or what they'll do next is because of WikiLeaks. So we need WikiLeaks. If we can't shut down these monsters that are creating all sorts of problems with lies, including wars, as Julian says, if wars start with lies, then peace can be brought about with truth. So we need, if we can't shut down the lies, we need the truth tellers. We've got to counterbalance the liars with the truth tellers. But I'll find that screenshot and send it to Steve, so we can have a little laugh about that one. I can't believe they published their meetings.
That's filled in some time for the lunch break, now, hasn't it, guys?
Yeah.
Right.
Coffee, yeah?
Okay, let me find. Where is it? Where do I have it? Okay. Right.
Fuck, I'm tired.
Man, I barely was able to get up today. I've hit that snooze button so many times.
I'm struggling. I need that Flintstones chewable cocaine this morning. I do.
Did you guys see? I wasn't sure if you guys had seen this article or not in the Middle East Eye, but it was some. Let me see. There was a big hack into the computer system of the UK's foreign ministry, and they took hundreds of files detailing the country's controversial propaganda programs and war.
Yeah. That was a huge scoop. Yeah,
and I thought that was, just kind of a lesson to the people that we're talking about and dealing with here, is that's just, you may cause a lot of destruction in your wake, but you just cannot keep the truth down. It's just, it doesn't work. We have like all of humanity as evidence. I don't know. But I was really happy about that happening.
And we've also got Carl Sagan saying if it can be destroyed by the truth, then it deserves to be destroyed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
And I it's incredibly frustrating to watch people who know that like at least half of media in general is bullshit, but they've fallen so deeply into this like confirmation of bias thing that they won't take a step back and realize that, okay, if the outlets that only exist to corroborate the preconceived notions of this political party are bullshit, maybe the ones that exist to corroborate my preconceived notions are bullshit. Like it's just people walking around half right about shit bug me like relentlessly, because you're smart enough to figure half of it out. You are, which means that the half that you aren't figuring out is being buried by some sort of denial.
To counter that, mate, it's a pretty crazy. The last few years have been pretty crazy. unless you are watching the news like hawks, like we are, you haven't got a clue what's going on. How could you?
Well, and that's why when this is over this winter, like I actually want to sit down and write the fucking manufacturing confusion book.
Well, you and
That would be a great book, man.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, Steve, you and Elizabeth have talked about that before, kind of to Gordon's point, is just like, how do you have time? And it's the system is basically set up for that. I mean, everybody's a wage slave. So you don't really even, as far as like accruing wealth like you used to be able to, it's not the same, for the average person. And then what time do they have? If you have a full-time job with kids and you know what I mean? It's like, it just becomes that, oh, I did
Well, that's why it
I-
can't be done individually. I mean, when they say organize, educate, organize, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we need to be organized because they're organized. The upper crust, they're very organized. So we need to work collectively. We've got to get rid of that Thatcheristic, Reaganistic bullshit about we're all individuals and, we're not connected to society. We've got to, trash that and start to, as Gordon said, we need to talk to each other. Even if we don't agree with each other on every aspect, we need to talk to each other to get out of this mess. Otherwise, we're looking at a very ugly future.
Well, I don't connect to this society. I don't.
Not the sick
No,
part.
I mean, like, I think that there's a lot of people that would share that sentiment and be like, no, fuck society. It doesn't represent me. It's not where, I feel like I'm valuable as a human being. So your alternatives are to exit society or reformulate the one you're currently in, which sounds like a lot of work. And most people would rather be like, I'll just bitch about it.
But there are healthy elements within society as well. So we need to connect with the healthy elements, the ones that believe in humanity, that want humanity to go forward, those elements. So, and, let the demons and the murderers eat each other up. But I think that a lot of our battle is in organizing the good people, the 10%, the good people, and, putting a detour sign on this road to destruction and, getting off. We are really heading towards a very, very bad place from every aspect, whether it's ecological, whether it's political, in whatever way you want to see it. We are heading towards a cliff and we're about to go off it.
Yeah, you don't have to be Nostradamus to see where this is going, do you? This is not going to end well if we carry on.
Yeah. So, it's not about us doing things individually. It's about getting together and with the healthy elements of society and going forward with that roadway, slowly building, not slow, we don't have a lot of time because we are heading towards the 6th mass extinction. So we don't really have a lot of time. If a bomb doesn't get us, then the ecological bomb will. So we need to organize with other people that see the disaster that's coming and who have the dynamics to change this roadmap, but we can't do this on our own. That's
and we can't do it without a free and open internet and a free press.
Exactly. And that's right. We need truth tellers. We need leakers. We need who are never criminals, even if they steal the information. They're not criminals. People have to understand that exposing a crime is never a crime ever. So we need good journalism, truthful people that work with integrity, like WikiLeaks and Julian and the other WikiLeaks people. And we mustn't be afraid of the mafia thugs that are running the world right now. We need to fight them.
Well said.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to fish off of my deck. That's all I want. Really, yeah, dude. I'll go and get bloodied up for however long it takes, as long as when whatever is left of me is in a spot where I can no longer fight, I can fish off of my porch. That's just I'll be happy. Fucking. I'm not even kidding, dude. Like, I don't want shit. I just a fucking patch of dirt with a little fucking river running through it.
Well,
there might be no fish in your porch if Fukushima keeps going.
Well, that's why I'm looking at an inland river as opposed to a coastal one. Certainly one on the west coast in any sort of proximity to nuclear runoff.
Okay, all right. So there may be fish on your porch, but there won't be anywhere else.
I mean, if we can get used to hot dogs, we can get used to 3-headed fish, right?
Jeez.
Well, I think the Simpsons have done that, mate.
Yeah, Blinky. Blinky the fish. Yeah, I had a buddy that had a fucking glass pipe that was that fish.
We back?
Yeah.
Are we back from break yet?
Another few minutes.
We got about 8 or 10 minutes before we're officially back from the break. They went on an extended break because they had read out all the witness statements that they had to read out, and then there's a live witness or a video witness.
I will say, I mean, however frustrated we are with events, and however frustrated we are, imagine how Julian feels.
I can't imagine.
He's basically just been a spectator, hasn't he?
Mary Kostakidis this morning said that while they were reading off, no, I don't think it was Chomsky's. I think it was Robert Boyle's statement, that he was like pacing in the little fucking goldfish bowl. And why wouldn't you be? Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, he's
your
in a 9-10
fate
global.
is being played out before you by this fucking freak show pantomime kangaroo fucking show trial.
It's a continuation of the torture. They are still torturing him. He's not even a spectator because he can't even hear everything properly. He can't give instructions. I mean, as he said himself, you know, I'm as much of a, what did he say? As much of a participant in these proceedings as a spectator at Wimbledon.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not even getting the minimal rights that anyone. Pinochet got a lot more rights than the mass murderer got. Full rights.
Dude's in a glass box, for God's sakes. Like,
that they specially built for him and installed in the Old Bailey because it didn't fucking have one prior to this.
I mean,
Yeah.
fuck, we tried serial killers with more respect. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and yeah.
Well, Pilger had made that point. I know I saw it when he was on CN Live, but just, you know, about the Nuremberg trials, and look at the difference now. Here we have somebody who, then we had people in glass boxes who were war criminals, and now we've switched that around.
They were not in glass boxes. They had interpreters right next to them. They were treated very humanely, very well, actually. They were treated very well. Until they were hung, but, you know.
Right. Yeah, maybe it was specifically with Eichmann, but it was, you know, I just thought that was a really good point from Pilger.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And, you know, the one thing that people forget is that 16 judges were also went through Nuremberg. They were also tried, 16 judges. So judges who do the bidding of a rogue state should be thinking about possible consequences somewhere down the track.
We would need a judicial body that is able to enforce what they rule, and we don't have that in the International Criminal Court.
Oh no, the International Criminal Court is a political court. There's a good reason why they call it the African Court. It never ever tried a white person ever. Everyone that goes before the ICC is black or brown.
Or Milosevic, and that was purely
No,
political.
that wasn't the ICC. That was,
it wasn't.
special
That was,
tribunal. No,
yeah,
the ICC has never tried a white person, even though it has jurisdiction to go after people like Blair, Sarkozy, and even US presidents, even though the US is not a party to the Statute of Rome. There's another way of getting around that. The UN the UN Security Council can refer a case to the ICC, even if it involves non-parties who commit war crimes. That's why the US threatened the ICC very recently, because they know that they can be got at.
Big thank you to Solitary Reaper real quick in the chat. She DM'd me a tweet from our friend Tarek Haddad, who has both UC Global witness statements up on his website, tarekhaddad.com. So if you go to tarekhaddad.com, I believe it's in the archives section. He's got all of the witness statements from the first 2 weeks. And then as witness statements become available for this week, he'll be uploading those as well. So the UC Global witness statements are up there. Big thank you again. I appreciate that. I will be going through these.
That means So that means that they're finished with the witnesses in court, I hope.
Yeah, because the next witness is live.
Okay. All right. So they finished all the examination.
Video live, but
I just don't want Tarek to be, in trouble for contempt of court, like,
Tarek wouldn't put it up.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'm just verifying. That.
Yeah. No, Tarek is a cautious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good. Okay.
one of the journalists who was in the court on Monday, by the way, and who I could see, and he was probably, he was running about all over the place. You know what Tarek's like? He's a busy guy. Does good work. Yeah, he does good work, and it was nice to see. On Monday, it was nice to see journalists like that actually doing their work along with the others who were just lounging around. Having an easy payday.
I just find it so cartoonish that it's the indie journalists basically that are just running circles around these guys. Like it's cartoon. It's weird.
Well,
One of these days I will stop embarrassing Tarek when he comes on. But until I get the sense that he's not going to blush when I call him unfairly handsome, I'm gonna keep that up. Nothing better than watching a brown man blush.
Well, some independent journalists have a lot more of a public than the idiots in the mainstream media. So, I think there's like Grey Zone has a huge public, Declassified has a huge public. There's quite a few that. And also, I will add in the fantastic comedians who do better journalistic work than a lot of journalists like Jimmy Dore and Lee Camp. We can get the message out. We've got platforms. We've got people.
It was really interesting because I had gotten a message from, and I kind of gauge how things are going from people I know that know what I'm doing, but that aren't necessarily, supportive or active on their own. And somebody had sent me a thing. Chris Hayes had a good, report on MSNBC on Julian Assange and that he should be free and blah, blah, and so I went home and I tried to look it up and I couldn't find it on the MSNBC website. Like it went to it, but it wouldn't play the video. And then I think it was that same day though, where I was able to see it was the Jimmy Dore show because he had it recorded and was talking about it, and I was, just so appreciative to him for, calling it out. We'll send his clips to our group even, I mean, that's like, but as Jimmy Dore said, we're in trouble when I'm the one who's giving you this information.
Really, truly, because I mean, the people that he's talking about, and he does a brilliant job of taking down the CNNs, the MSNBCs, the corporate news who are falling down on the job so badly. If you look at them, CNN collectively, Fox, MSNBC, all of the news agencies in America, and you look at their vision of America that they portray, and then you look on the streets in America, it's totally different. My a friend of mine, good friend of mine, who doesn't pay any attention to politics whatsoever, but she's one of these people who is really street smart and can she can suss people out in one conversation. And she says, don't need to know anything about America. It's fake. It's just fake. Everything's fake. And it's so true because you look at the news and what they portray on the screen. And I have it here every morning. I watch CNN, MSNBC just to try and get what the propaganda is. It's so detached from what you guys on the ground will be living and seeing in the tent cities, etc. And they never show them, do they? They're all very rarely. They're on the screen and then they're off again.
Me and Steve, man,
so detached from reality now, right now, as to what's going on the ground, and that is really, really scary.
I mean, every block has tents, like pretty much in California now. It is fucking insanity, and yeah, it's never shown. They just keep kind of riling up the camps, throwing them all away, and then they go to the next town, and then they come.
Come on.
What you'll occasionally see is state violence against a homeless encampment. and you'll see bulldozers running through and like plowing over tents and shit, and like everybody's belongings getting scooped up into a bucket, you know, on a front end loader. And all that's supposed to do is send a message that, hey, this town doesn't want your fucking homeless ass here. You better fucking get on down the road, buddy.
Yeah, they just keep shuffling
this was all
around.
sorted out last night in the debate, wasn't it, guys?
I
didn't
didn't
watch
watch a
it.
moment of the debate. I didn't watch a blessed second of it. In fact, I put out a tweet about 2 hours before it started, saying something to the effect of like, the national security state won the debate tonight. Allow me to save you a couple of hours of watching a couple of geriatrics. Like, pray they don't shit themselves on stage.
That's a great summation of it, mate. Thank you. I don't want to watch it.
Yeah, I can't. There's not enough liquor for me to watch that shit. There just isn't.
It was, I saw highlights of it this morning, and it was like a really crap teacher trying to make peace between the two of the naughtiest children in school and just making things way worse. It was a
I did see where Chris Wallace was getting kicked around all over Twitter from like both sides. You know, like the Democrats hated Chris Wallace, the Republicans hated Chris Wallace, which to me is the sign of an effective moderator. But
and then you look at the blue check marks on Twitter, and you've got one side who are like, wasn't Biden great? Biden won the debate. You got the other side saying, look at Satan, Trump. Isn't Trump great? They're so fantastic. And there's nobody like us sitting there thinking, well, this is a shit show. They're both as bad as this is the best we've got. You know, that's the way a normal person on looking at that will think. But you, like I say, you look at what's on your TV screens, and it's detached from reality.
Well, it wasn't a debate. It was like they defined basically just the limits of the echo chamber for each side, you know, that Chomsky talks about. That's what that was. That was a spectacle. There was no debate. There wasn't one.
Except that Biden isn't even sure what political positions he's taking. For example, with the new Green Deal.
Not Trump. That's his position, I think.
No, but I mean, when he said it'll pay itself off, and then somebody had to remind him that
he doesn't support it.
That he doesn't support it.
Yeah, he said it'll pay for itself, and it'll pay for itself. And then Wallace says, "Do you support it?" And you went, "No." Okay, well, if that's your opposition, then you know, okay, you really need to.
I mean, the choice is between somebody who's senile and somebody who is wacko, you know, crazy. It's
we've done this experiment. I'm sure we have.
Yeah, it gets just when you think 2016 was bad and can't get worse.
Yeah, America went hold my beer.
Oh, God.
We're getting rid of free press in the United States. It's on trial right now. That's what we're talking about, and we have an entire portion of the country that is not, going to hold Trump accountable, their own president, for that. I don't understand that. I mean, I don't understand what everybody thinks they're going to do without the First Amendment. It's
not
crazy.
A damn thing, and they're asleep.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was actually thinking about this morning when I was walking. If you actually look, you know, I really do love America, and the Constitution you guys keep talking about. It really is quite a wonderful thing. It really is, and this Constitution and everything that your country is built on and stands for. If you actually look at it, it's amazing. The problem is the people who are in power are pissing all over it on a daily basis. That's the problem. If you can fix that, then, you know, but then, you know, I live in the UK, and
well, here's the thing, man. The machine as it stands today in 2020, there have been some changes in the design of the machine over the last couple centuries. And now the machine is programmed to kill 99% of us. And our solution to this machine that's programmed to kill most of us is to slap a couple of new parts on it every 2 to 4 years.
Yeah, that's not
And
going to work.
thinking that that's going to solve the problem when all it's doing is prolonging the life of a machine designed to kill us. And
Yeah,
It
it's-
doesn't want us dead, Steve. It just wants us to live and take our money.
it feeds you until it kills you.
Yeah.
it needs money.
But you have
It
to
wants you to live while you're productive.
The
It's
problem
not-
with that, of course, is if you're a planet that's based on consumerism, you need to be exploiting people to be able to do that and be able to get your flat screen TV for a couple of $100. And the problem with that, of course, is if you actually look at the amount of countries that have been sanctioned around the world, and you look at the military presence that America have got around the world, especially in places like Africa where you haven't declared any war, etc. Then you add in the 7 or 8 countries, is it now, that you're actually openly bombing. Then you add in the trade war versus China. You actually add that all up, and America are basically at war with 25% of the planet, and it's the poorest 25% of it.
Mhm.
And that is itself caused by rampant capitalism and consumerism and interested only in the profit rather than the human cost. We've got to get away from it. Otherwise, we're done. We're toast.
Well, I mean, we should probably do something about our Luciferian pedophile problem.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think
You
that's
know, I
a good idea.
I think if we get that sorted out, then the rest of the chips will just kind of fall where they are supposed to. But did I say something, Kendra? You
it's so awful, but just, it's so true. It's just, my God.
But even that's related to the economics, because the only reason the Luciferian pedophile problem came about was because it was used to blackmail the big shots that call the shots on political and economic decisions.
No, they just like their air miles. That's all it was.
right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Right. Little St. John's is lovely this time of year. Why not?
Beautiful. Kids'
Yeah.
paradise.
Well, I got dark pretty quick. Sorry, guys.
They should be coming back from there. Are they back from?
What they came back to break for another 30 minutes.
Oh, God.
Jesus Christ.
Oh,
They're
God.
killing me,
According
Steve.
to Assange defense, like a moment or two ago, they came back from lunch. Mark Summers, QC for the defense, was updating witness statements. They are trying to reach an agreement on Jamil Jaffer's statement, and as a result of that, needing to get these statements agreed on, they're coming back at 2:30 BST. So we have another 20 minutes of downtime. So I am going to suggest, I guess arm wrestling can't happen. I don't know. Pants off, dance off.
How do you know
The
I'm even
delirium
wearing
has
pants?
completely set in. I am underslept, y'all. Underslept, and
What you guys have done is pretty amazing. I mean, you're working, you're working way harder than me. That's for sure.
I just can't believe nobody else has fucking thought to do what we were doing, who has like a bigger platform and better production budget.
What you're doing is fantastic, mate.
Well,
I think you're the perfect people to be doing it, and I don't think anybody else should be.
So thank you. It doesn't seem like it was that radical of an idea. There's a number of people who have cloud video feed access, who are live tweeting, who are doing a fantastic job of it. And, why not have a live stream where we can all come together and discuss it and let the chat, and the chat can participate in it. They can ask us questions and we can have, basically moment by moment coverage of what's going on. Like, I don't know why we were the only people that thought of that. Kathy Fogan, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you, mate?
Good, good. It's wonderful to see you. Hey, guys, it's Kathy Fogan from
Hi,
Conspiracy.
Kathy.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Yeah, my arms are sore from trying to keep up with all of those statements that were being read out at breakneck speed.
Did you see where Tarek Haddad on his website has those statements up in archive now?
Oh, that's very good. What all the ones that were read out this morning?
And for the first 2 weeks of the hearing.
I didn't know the most recent ones. He had the most recent ones.
Yeah, I just got sent the UC Global one, so I would assume that the other ones are up. I haven't looked yet.
I should take a look at that. Yeah, because we've been hounding them. We've been managed to get hold of something. ...
Right. Holy shit! It's the fucking party
It's
here.
there for the plucking. They're out there already.
So in like the 15 to 17 minutes before court comes back, Kathy, I want to thank you and Joe for the work that you guys have been doing throughout the course of this trial. Joe Loria teaches me something every time I listen to one of those updates, and I'm incredibly grateful for it. I've
been tuning in every single day to Joe's updates. Brilliant.
Yeah, they're great.
Come on. Joe's gonna
thank you very much.
just gonna say
Hey, Joe.
I
Thank you.
I had him pinned to his green screen.
Little drive-by hello from Joe Loria. That was pleasant. Kathy, I'd like to get your take on what has gone down this week, and if possible, perhaps a prediction on whether or not Beretzer has been swayed by any of the testimony, including that about UC Global.
Well, the week has been particularly long and incredibly arduous. I was just I had to go and see a friend because I was just so suffering from severe depression listening to it. And we've had all of the Gillian's medical details read out in open court. We've been asked to exercise discretion in reporting details. So what wasn't necessary. I didn't feel I needed to report those details, and also there was a ruling. The press were really pushing to get the medical notes of the doctors. We had their reports, but they wanted the medical notes behind them, and both the defense and prosecution were in agreement that and with the judge that absolutely wasn't necessary, that Mr. Assange's privacy took priority in that case. So we had that, and then we went into the horrors of ADC and ADX, and is there really solitary confinement? It seems that there's ADSEG, which is administrative segregation, but then there's all kinds of other reasons for segregation as well, protective and punitive, and also ones that are just simply, I think Kevin Gostola said, a punishment for being well known, right? Yeah. But then on top of that, if somebody is deemed to be a risk to national security, that is, that they have this kind of information and they could transmit this to the rest of the population and cause a ruckus. Julian would definitely have some tales to tell. So the prosecution were really struggling. Claire Dobbin is not particularly easy to listen to. She comes from possibly my hometown. I was born in Belfast.
Kathy, can I just jump in there? I was there on Monday. This woman has got the most obnoxious voice I have ever
That's
heard
what Richard
in my
Nedhart
life.
said too.
I've got my own name for it. It's not McBride, but it's something else, and it's not going to come out on air because I'm doing a job at the moment.
Oh,
but
you fucking hold out.
It's
I've got a good
honestly.
one. I've got a good one.
You're gonna message it to me like immediately, though, right? Just so I could have a chuckle.
Hashtag.
I'm
anyway,
not.
I have to be brief because we've got to go back soon. But
Certainly.
she was struggling so hard to nut out the details and constantly read the same passages over and over again from Kronberg, from Feldman.
You didn't answer the question.
But they say that. Which question I didn't answer?
The one that you were asked about whether the judge has been swayed or not.
I am going to get there, man.
Joe, if you're gonna backseat drive the interview, you can get in front of the camera.
Yes. I'm very sorry, but I talk in complex sentences. My headmaster complained about that. Anyway, so look, all of this was just the occasion for all of this detail about how awfully the US treat people. I mean, it is so. It's medieval. I think we agreed on that word. It's totally unnecessary to punish people like that and drive them mad. I really felt that at one point, one of the witnesses, might have been Maureen, but I think I was starting to think that she was implying that it's actually the punishment, it's the confinement that creates the mental health issue.
That's right.
Rather than talking about that as a precondition. But we have heard over and over again how awful it is for people, and they hallucinate and everything, and very deleterious on their health. And just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, that's when we heard that there were the anonymous witnesses. That's when we learned UC Global was actually coming out. And that's when we became hyper excited, and so it was wonderful. I said to Mary Costakides, the boil has been lanced, and all of this has come out. Barreto has got quieter and quieter, and cooperative. I was just remarking when she said to Mark Summers, when he was giving all the reasons for anonymity, at one point with a very gentle voice, she said, "It's okay, Mr. Summers, I'm with you."
Wow.
And that's exactly how she said it. You don't have to keep giving me reasons, but it was the tone in her voice that really made me feel. And Mary Costas said exactly, she had the same impression that the penny has dropped. I don't know if, we don't know anything about Barreto, if she lived in a bubble or, a wide social sphere, but I mean, everything's sort of gone that you might want to find out, except a little bit about her 96% record of extraditing people. But I can see, we were there in February in London, and we've been in there, covering this every day. And I have seen a visible shift in her behavior and her treatment of Julian. It seems much more polite than it was before. But also, I think that she has been terribly uncomfortable. She looked visibly upset listening to the details of Khaled El Masri, and and I think also the consequences of him not getting justice, or the reasons for him not getting justice was state interference. The threats, not only on Germany, his lawyer, but Germany, and then finally that's something that's a little bit closer to her, the International Criminal Court. So I think she's becoming aware of this is about the division of powers. And at one point she did say to Mr. Summers, "Excuse me, are you making an argument for about the impartiality of the judicial system from the executive?" And he didn't want to let it go at that point. So he didn't say kind of yes or no, but I think she sort of sensed very quickly where he was going, and that's where it's gone. This terrible situation where the CIA, you know, where it's looking. Andrew Fowler has showed that UC Global spying has gone back to the State Department, and he also mentioned people close associates of Trump. Not quite to the CIA, but Mark Summers has been talking about the CIA today and the witnesses as well. So I'd like to take a good look at those. But it's then the horror of them being the ones, you know, and this was brought out by Lindsay Lewis, that the CIA would have a hand in deciding whether Julian gets SAMs or not, whether he's put in this oubliette for the rest of his days and never sees anybody again. It's the most horrendous torture, but it seems to be people who are implicated. And so thus the Chinese wall had to go up because the CIA are implicated in this. A clear division between Department of Justice and CIA has to be seen, established, really, that's it, you know, and I've heard Mary say that the US are in a bit of a corner over this. So they didn't have the time to check the background of the two witnesses, but Mark Summers just went ahead with it today. It was up like a shot. And I think this is kind of wrapping it up. Unfortunately, Andy Worthington is not well, so we don't know if he's going to appear or not. But there are two more. There is Jaffer's statement, and then there's another one from Mr. Teager, who they're going to have great difficulty agreeing on it being able to be read. I think that would really be one that Lewis would want to, or Dobbin would want to cross-examine. So we're near the end now, but it's, my goodness, what a crescendo. Yeah. And I really feel that that I don't know where a berater can go to not give this one to Julian. Go Julian's way.
We were joined about an hour ago by Kevin Gostola, who's been popping in pretty much every day that we've been doing these early morning streams to give us an update. And he was telling us that God damn it, I had it and I lost it because I looked down at the chat and I completely lost my train of thread.
Kevin
Did he think that as well, that it was going to go Julian's way?
Oh, he was telling us that we may wrap tomorrow, like wrap officially tomorrow, and then that'll be the end of this portion of it, and then it's the 16th of November, correct? That closing arguments are delivered.
Yes, and we aren't quite sure yet whether they will be heard in court or whether they will be just purely written, which would be quite disappointing.
I think we just saw a few moments ago or half an hour or so ago that they're only going to be written.
Right.
They're not going to be verbally introduced to the court, which is a huge shame. And I certainly hope that we'll be able to access, written copies of the closing arguments, because it's pretty vital for the work that we're doing to have access.
Oh, I think that they will be released. I mean, you've got the skeleton arguments that have been released for both the defense and prosecution. So I think the closing arguments will be published as well. But it's sad that we can't have that in a truly open court and hear that debate and the judgment that is passed, which will be in 2021. Yes, Mr. Fitzgerald said that they would be finished tomorrow, but it seems like they, UC Global witnesses were just sort of, I don't know if they're pulled forward. I had the impression with Joe that they might be tomorrow, but...
No, we just heard them.
Been
that was the original idea, but then they were brought forward, yes.
Not because they ran out of time, by the way, but because they were unable
no, that's
to
right.
treat these witnesses.
Yeah.
It was a third country.
So as far as I can see, we've got Andy Worthington, who may be in court because he's British. If he comes, or else it's video link, and then but he is ill. But it's not out of the question that he does still testify. They would rather avoid it, and then of course there will be Jaffer and Teager, and then I don't know what's after that. Yeah. Maybe some comments from the judge. Anyway, it was nice coming in and saying Hello? I think we probably should be heading back.
That was a nice
Oh, that was
surprise. I
great.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, hang on a second. So you were going to tell me actually what Kevin thought.
Oh yeah, no, I did. Just that we'd be wrapped with this tomorrow, and then there will
Oh
be.
yeah, but nothing else like in terms of all.
No, I don't think it was earth shattering. I don't. I am exhausted. Yeah, I'm going on about like an hour and 45 minutes of sleep.
I know, but is Kevin's not making any predictions as yet?
No, he's not big on speculation. Our Kevin, he's not. Much to my chagrin, because I like to try and
Like, you know what they say, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. So we'll keep it that way, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is I mean, Andrew McClure said that he was very optimistic before the Supreme Court in in 2012. But then it just everything went the other way. But this is not Sweden, you know.
No,
The opportunity to bring out all those war crimes, rendition programs, torture, and the value of WikiLeaks work. It's WikiLeaks and the US, you know, and it's a very, very big issue. Very big issue. So
David McBride was on the Vigil last night, and he expressed a sentiment of like big time hope about all of this. So from his lips to God's ears.
I've got one that's about this size.
Okay. Okay.
Right, I've got to go.
Have a good one.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, Joe.
Bye.
That was delightful.
That was freaking unexpected.
That was
That's great.
I gave Kathy the link like last week. I'm like, hey, if you get bored, pop in.
So, I'm just reading at the moment. Plans were discussed to poison or kidnap Julian Assange from the Ecuadorian embassy. His extradition trial has been told by an ex-employee of the private security firm. So the plans to poison or kidnap him. So the argument that they made on Monday afternoon when I was there, that basically he would only face a few months in prison and it was Holiday Inn. That sounds a bit like it doesn't add up, does it? If they were trying to poison him or kidnap him, it doesn't add up that they're just going to give him a few months in a Holiday Inn over in America and then release him. If
right,
they're arguing both sides of the coin here, aren't they?
well, and I think that the job of the prosecution, because if I'm correct in this, the going into extradition court, the assumption is the ruling is going to be for extradition. And it's up to the defense to prove that their client should not be extradited. So because of that, the prosecution's main job, besides discrediting defense witnesses, is to obfuscate as much as possible. So if they're arguing both sides of the coin, that makes it significantly more difficult for the judge to maintain like a continuous thread of thought.
It sounds like a wonderful way to do the judicial system.
Right? There's your open justice.
Seems like I can't find any fault with that at all. Well done, Old Bailey.
Just a perfectly normal court system in a perfectly normal world.
well, that's
No,
the
I have,
thing.
like-
I mean, think about conditions in the U.S. and like ignoring the conditions he's in right in front of everybody's.
Well, their
face.
argument was, I mean, have you seen Belmarsh? It's a shithole. So
Yeah.
he'll be much better off at ADX Florence.
That reminds me so much of what they used to say when they said he was in Ecuador in arbitrary detention and his health was bad, and they'd say, oh well, if it's so bad, why doesn't he just walk out then and go into one of our prisons? It's just so insidious. It really is.
I thought that was really positive though from Kathy, and it made me happy. I can't help but be hopeful. I mean, I am, and that made me happy. I mean, even that there's some sort of, crack going on there with the judge, I think is important. I mean, how could, we're still talking about human beings here. How could you not be affected by this testimony? And that I don't know, that was really great to hear from Kathy.
Mm. Yeah.
Well, and she's an adorable Fraggle. So, how could you not just be like, yeah, that's Kathy Vogan.
I will say after Monday, after what I saw, I mean, I was there on what they said was the worst day for the defence, and I came out hopeful because I thought if that's the worst day for the defence, then we've got nothing to worry about, or we shouldn't have anything to worry about. But my worry has always been the same as the rest of yours, and we're worried that the fix is already in, and this is going to have to go all the way and to the Supreme Court. If you're doing that, then you're playing into the American side as well, because their whole thing from the very beginning was to frustrate and to move him, to hound him from place to place, and to get him locked up and to get him isolated and to psychologically torture him like that. So it's just a continuation of it. So my hope is we're going to see justice. My only problem is when we're going to see it.
Yeah, I mean, the process is definitely punishment.
Keep hopeful.
Well, I think that if they don't do the right thing at this point, they're on a very slippery slope. Because from what I see about what's happening in the UK, the place is simmering and the thing is about to explode with so many issues. We are
not happy. The people in this country.
Yeah, exactly. So this kind of thing could be, the straw that breaks the camel back, and it could actually have repercussions they haven't even thought about. And when you go to war, even especially with your public, and then you've got to realize that nobody controls the course of a war, and this could be such a huge blowback to the government and further. It could actually hit back in, the whole, all of their institutions at the end. Because when you show that your judicial system doesn't work, you have no democracy. You know it's gone. And so
I'm sure that's part of the reason why they're trying to keep this trial so hidden to the public at large.
Very much
but
so.
that in itself shows there's no democracy. When you hide, a trial of these. Of this proportion, of historical dimensions, like this trial, when you try to hide this, you're telling the world, we're going to do whatever we like and you can just suck an egg kind of thing, we don't care what you think. That's not a good idea, especially right now. The current conditions in Britain, I think they need to think about where they're going with this, because it could really, really explode back in their face in a big way that they haven't even imagined. So,
and both of the presidential candidates on the Republican and Democratic tickets, respectively, are running on a platform of fucking lick balls, peasant.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I don't even know. When I
Didn't Joe Biden's wife actually say the words "swallow it"?
Yeah.
Didn't she actually say those words?
Yeah.
You're just going to have to swallow it.
You have to swallow it for Joe.
That's a great advert for democracy.
Take it right, Kendra.
I'm sure you're a lovely person. I'm sure you are. However, I have already aged out from the group that Joe would appreciate a swallow from. So I don't think I count. I'm not a 13-year-old girl. I'm not Joe's type.
God. We live in a cartoon.
We really do. And not only that, but you get a better education from South Park than you do from the news.
Right.
You get better education from the cartoons than you do from the news.
Oh,
It's
and
really...
it looks back in session now too, guys.
Okay. What you got?
It looks like we've got Mark Summers summarizing Worthington's statement. So it sounds like he won't be testifying. And this specifically deals with the Guantanamo detainee assessment briefs. And that's all we got so far. At least from Assange defense. I don't know if anybody else has started again.
Okay, I'm gonna check Mary Kostakidis. Has not posted anything for 11 minutes. And
It may have just Kevin doesn't either, so maybe it just started going.
Are we just calling him Kevin now?
Yeah, that's fine. You should check it. You should check Mo. He's like the mad tweeter.
Well, and again, like Mo's got a leg up because he comes from a legal background. So the language that's being spoken in the courtroom is one that he's incredibly familiar with. I've got to figure out who I'm following on Twitter that would retweet AOC on purpose, and then I have to get rid of that person.
I like AOC. I like AOC. She's a good actress, man.
I mean, yeah, dude, I loved her in
Did you see her in the
election
Senate?
2018. She crushed it. She did. That was a great
Good
part.
movie, that was, the Senate. Good movie.
I know people that are like deathly afraid that they're going to run her in 2024. If they lose to Trump again, that their next hope is going to be this fucking just vapid actress with like even her fucking Twitter game that people love her for, it's only when she's defending herself. It's never when she needs to defend another human being. It's never when she needs to defend someone who's ever stood up for her. It's only if it directly affected her. And like, I got so much shit 2 years ago at this time for telling people about AOC and what I thought what would happen there, and that she's not there to like wrestle away the power from Nancy Pelosi. She's there to inherit it. And they were like, you hate women.
I defer to party leadership. Party leadership.
You'll be happy to know, Matt, she can't run in 2024. She's not old enough. She's only 30. She's got to be 35 to run for president.
Well, okay. Fair enough. So 2028.
2028.
I was going to say about Biden. I think he's just a decoy. We need to be looking at Kamala. You know, who's Kamala?
Oh,
they're keeping Kamala safe out of the debates. You know, in the background.
Top level candidate.
Yeah, and then
top shelf candidate.
Yeah, couldn't even take 5th place in her home state.
Yeah, sure. But the thing is that people. Anyway, there's bait there. You know, I think that they're sacrificing Biden, keeping her out of any kind of attack on the main stage, and then they're just going to stick her in everybody's face at the end.
I still think they're going to put in Hillary. That's still always been my prediction.
Oh my God! Oh, that would be. Oh my God, that would be a monumental mistake.
I bet you they'll do it.
She'll never win.
Well, Kamala Harris is essentially Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, but
it's Hillary Clinton with a different skin tone and like impossibly deader eyes.
Yeah, she's a compromise, but I really don't think they're going to try Hillary overtly and in your face kind of thing. I doubt it. That would.
I hope not.
I don't think that even the Democratic Party is that stupid, but I've been wrong about that before when I said that out loud in the past.
No, I think they're going to have Kamala with Hillary directing, you know, at the wheel.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, when the Democrats started their primary and there were like 436 candidates, there were at least 5 versions of Hillary Clinton that were running. And Kamala Harris is identity politics bingo Clinton. Like it's terrible, man. I live in California. I know her record. I know what happened when she was AG. I know what happened when she was the fucking DA of San Francisco.
Yeah,
Like,
I lived there when she was fucking DA. Like, she was
she
monstrous.
won her attorney general's race by less than 1% of a point over a guy who was like a literal Nazi. And she was still trying to like outlaw and order this dude when she was running against him and debating him and stuff like she was trying to position herself to the right of a poster child for the fucking Lebensborn. And it almost didn't work. But
that's
Willie
probably
Brown
she's not capable of winning the public, so that's why they're keeping her in the background, in the shadow, and then, you know, with all those smiling photos, the toothpaste smile, where they look like a happy couple, Joe and Kamala.
It's the worst way to run a country, anyway, isn't it? Just give one person all of the power and make him.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. That's why
it's ridiculous. I mean, if you were thinking up a way to actually run a country, giving it one person to do is the last thing you would do. No, you would think, right, okay, all right, well, what we got economics. So the people that run the economics, well, what we'll do, we'll have, I don't know, 1,000 economists, and then anything we'll let them decide with the, you know, they've got to educate themselves on it and they'll decide. And you could do the same with anything as well and have an actual government, and maybe one person there as sort of a spokesperson or as a chairperson for it. But giving the job one person to do, and especially giving it AOC in 2028, is literally the worst option that you would pick if you had a multiple choice. And I don't know, one of them was give it a bunch of axe murderers, or one of them was, I don't know, we'll choose George Carlin's way of incarcerating everybody in Arizona and putting all the rapists in Ohio, you know, that sketch. You know, the last thing you would do is give the job to one person to run the biggest military industrial complex on the planet.
Yeah. Well, I think that the way the States is going currently in 2028, it will definitely not be a superpower. So it probably won't matter if AOC gets anything at all. Yeah, I was going to ask on the other side, is it still Pence on the other side? Just so we can give a balanced view here, because we don't put shit only on Kamala.
Sure.
Just as shitty.
Yeah, I just, you know, personally, I mean, from my point of view, I just concentrate on crapping all over the DNC because they're the ones.
Oh, of course.
We would expect sort of.
Because they're presenting themselves as the left and the People's Party. Of course, they have to be criticized for what they're doing, because they've been screwing the people over and over through the primaries, through everything, through their presidents, going after 8 countries instead of 2, escalating wars, going after more whistleblowers than anybody, destroying an entire country, then turning it into a slave trade. I mean, they have a really shitty record on human rights and democracy and whatever we can think of. No, it's just, it's really a choice between typhoid and cholera. You know, if we only look at the 2 main parties, I think that it's the noose is around the neck of the American people. I feel sorry for them. What a horrible choice, you know.
Yeah, and of course it's that way for a reason. We've got the same problem over here. You know, the leader of our opposition is a knight of the empire.
Yeah.
You know, he literally knelt down before the
block
empire.
Of wood.
I will do your bidding for you. You know, and that's who we've got, the leader of the opposition, which is meant to represent the working class.
Who, by the way, let's tell everybody, for those who don't know, Keir Starmer, the leader of the opposition in the UK, was the director of the Crown Prosecution Service that was conspiring with the Swedish Prosecution Authority to get Julian for revealing war crimes.
He was essentially the chief prosecutor of the Met at the time when they were sending messages. I think it was to Sweden to say, "Don't back out now and don't get cold feet," because they were going to drop the well, I was going to say case or charges, but there were no case and no charges. They were going to they were going to close down what the accusations made.
No,
and-
it was
they
the
wanted-
Met that was like, you keep him in limbo. You don't file charges. You make
Yeah.
sure that this gets dragged out as long as possible.
drag it out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which was the Stratfor plan.
It
the
was.
Stratfor emails. It was move him from country to country, keep him in litigation, him and his family and his friends for 25 years. They were following exactly the Stratfor plan.
Yeah. They still
What
are.
does that tell you about our leaders? You know, the plan devised by a private corporation. Great democracy.
Well, again, I mean, just like there's no daylight between the majority of our media and government, there's no daylight between large tech companies and the government. And Whitney Webb has done incredible research on
Yeah,
this.
she has. She's amazing.
And she's the way that she frames it is going to be way smarter than the way that I summarize it. But basically, she said that private tech firms are the buffer between whether or not the government has any accountability for their actions, especially where it comes to things like surveillance or election rigging. Because voting machines have proprietary software and nobody can sue to see what what really happened in them. That allows for a sort of buffer zone of accountability between the company that makes the machines and the government. So yeah, it's
Well, I would argue, now that you've mentioned that, I would argue that the public should be entitled to dig into what if a public body or if a government uses private software, then I think it comes within the realm of what a government does. You don't necessarily need to go to the private company to get the information, but you can still go to the government and say, well, you picked this particular software on what criteria, what was its performance. I mean, you can still hold the government accountable for choosing a particular software that doesn't seem to be working very well. And if it's not working very well, why are they choosing this method of holding elections? Let's go back to a paper ballot. Let's do it properly, where we can be certain. You can't joke with democracy. It's too big an issue. So if they can't get the right software, they should be using the traditional methods of, having elections.
I mean, that's by design, though.
Yeah, of course it is.
It's they pick these companies so they don't have any accountability.
Exactly, but I don't think it prevents them from having accountability. I think they are still accountable because they chose a particular method to hold elections. So, and they're the ones who chose that method. So, of course, they're accountable for their decisions. There is another method that we know works much better, and that is the traditional method. Paper ballot, scrutineers, let's do it the good old-fashioned way.
How about
the new way doesn't work?
Party observers? How about not making the Secretary of State or your election supervisor a political position? How about it's a community position with no less than like a half a dozen people doing oversight on it? Like, there's so many ways you can decentralize this process and make it work. But this is the United States. We're an extension of the Roman Empire. We're where centralized power structures go to learn how to be more corrupt and more corruptible, and eventually how to crumble. Because we are an empire, and if you listen to Chomsky, the U.S. empire has been in decline since the minute World War II ended, and this has just been a long grind to ruin.
Well, it does take empires a long time to decline. I think it took a few hundred years for the Roman Empire to decline. The difference today is that we've got fantastic technology, so it can decline a lot faster. I mean, it doesn't need to take a few hundred years for it to be chucked out of its position of power. So, yeah. So the people, Americans need to take power back from these thugs that are running the show. Democracy is all about the people having the power. So
So Kendra had to run to work.
yeah, I realized when she just disappeared that she didn't even have time to say goodbye. Yeah.
She said she didn't want to interrupt because we were on a roll.
Mm. Yeah, we're having one of those days, aren't we? One of those we're on a roll days.
We're all delirious at this point.
Yeah,
wow.
it happens right around the point where the sleep debt fully takes over, and then there's somebody else driving. I don't even...
Well, that somebody else is doing a good job.
I experience each and every one of these shows and every interview that I ever give in like a sort of a blackout, where if you were to ask me what I said afterwards, I'd be like, fucking no idea, no clue, and it.
Yeah, I have to go back and rewatch if I want to know what we were talking about.
I have no fucking idea.
I get it.
Just none. And I've found that like that happens to a handful of people, but there are other people that like can dissect each and every moment of a 2-hour show or an hour and a half interview or something like that. How can you fucking do that?
Whitney Webb, dude. Like, I bet you she could do that. Like, just like pick apart everything she just said and like. Yeah, like it takes me like 3 or 4 times of watching an episode with her to like kind of grasp it.
I haven't met Whitney in person, so I can't testify as to whether or not she may be an alien. But like I'm gonna err on the side of human, but somebody with skills like that, I'm not convinced that people are capable of it. There may be extraterrestrial assistance, is what I'm saying.
Man, I need that meme picture handy with that dude with the crazy hair. It's aliens.
My favorite version of that is they morphed that guy into Rachel Maddow.
Hell yeah, I gotta find that. That's great.
I'll send it to you. I've got it somewhere.
Hell yeah.
Every now and then I do visit Facebook just to fucking like drop a meme like that and have the fucking blue no matter who people just go ape shit for a day. It's gone again for like another 3 to 5 weeks. Use Facebook for some drive-by fuckery.
So out of curiosity, is it the Green Party? Does it have, because I saw that they were trying to get rid of them from the ballot, and do they have, I'm not saying they could win. Yeah,
is that the Democrats?
Yeah.
Of course they will.
Oh yeah, no, they've succeeded.
Democracy in the world. Get them off the ballot.
Yeah, I mean, I've got issues with Hawkins, but they still shouldn't be knocking people off of the ballots. Yeah. It's just ridiculous.
He's a Russiagator as well.
Yeah, he's a Russiagator. He dead named Chelsea. He's not supportive of Assange. Like, I'm not voting for that fucking dude.
Yeah, but the thing is that if we look at what the mainstream in America would be willing to even look at and consider, because I mean there are other parties, but I'm just thinking a lot of them wouldn't even be considered by the mainstream.
No, they don't even cover Green Party on mainstream, like at all.
Yeah,
like that.
No, unless they need to like raise the specter of Jill Stein so they can further demonize Vladimir Putin.
Yeah,
that's about the only time the Green Party.
Have they said that Vladimir has put Biden in charge of the DNC? Have they said that yet?
Well, no, because it's the Democrats that are saying Putin controls every party but them.
Right. So it's not Putin's fault that Biden is their lead man. Okay.
Yeah, Putin controls Trump, and that's why they've got to give him an extra $100 billion for war.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And vote it through 98 to 2, was it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, Putin
Makes
wanted
total
Trump to
sense.
reauthorize the Patriot Act.
So when they lose the 2020 election, who are they going to blame now? Well,
Oh,
what
they're-
do they blame?
We're now in a situation where no matter what happens in November,
Jill Stein's going to get blamed.
Oh
right,
yeah,
well, yeah, Jill Stein's
100%.
but at least a quarter of the electorate is never going to believe the results. And then add to that the 50% of the country that doesn't vote and doesn't really believe the results anyway. So now we're at a spot where like 3/4 of the entire nation isn't going to believe the results of the election. And no matter who wins, that 3/4 of the nation may go out into the streets over it. Like,
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. Sorry to cut you off, Stephen. I was thinking if you wanted the least amount of rioting and the least amount of suppose of reaction to the election, then you wouldn't want Biden to win, because if Biden does win, it's going to be worse. I mean, if Trump wins, it's going to be bad. Nobody's going to accept that result. But if it's the other way, it's chaos is going to ensue, no matter what happens here. So
not only that, but we have no guarantees whatsoever that there will be open polling stations for in-person voting in all 50 states. So
no
Howard
guarantees
said,
there's going to be a smooth transition either in between, no matter what happens. You've got no guarantees here at all.
Oh, Whitney's written about this. I mean, they've been running simulations for this crap. It's craziness.
Yeah, and because it will be, voting will rely heavily on mail-in ballots, there will be no election night winner.
Yeah.
It's going to get dragged out for anywhere from days to weeks to possibly a month or two.
Didn't the right to ask in court whether the outcome of the election was going to change anything?
Yeah.
Whether it was going to
surely
affect
then it's
the case.
political.
Yeah, that's what Kristen Crafson said, that she admitted by asking that she admitted that this is a political case.
But it's a political extradition.
Yeah, of course.
You can't, there's no decision.
Where according to the treaty between the US and the UK, it should have been chucked out right from the beginning, because there were so many other elements showing that this is a political trial. But definitely the fact that she took into consideration the elections, it's not good for her. Well, it's not good for giving it to the prosecution. So
Mohammed Almazi had a different interpretation of that when he was on Saturday, and he was like, well, no, it's not really her admitting that it's a political issue. Like, she was asking the defense,
No, she didn't admit that it was a political issue.
Yeah. I mean, Mo had this
she inadvertently confirmed that this is a political trial because she took into consideration an election. An election is a political matter. And even if she only took it into account for scheduling the date of her ruling, no judge does that. No judge, no real judge. It's supposed to be the judicial power is supposed to be a separate, independent, and impartial power. What happens at election time should not impact her decision as to when her ruling will be handed down. She should have said, I'm going to hand down my ruling because it's a complicated case. I need a lot of time to think about it. Something like that, she would have covered her ass. The fact that she was asking about whether this election is going to impact the case, in what way? She's the judge. In what way is the election going to impact the case unless she allows it to impact the case?
Yeah, I mean, it's the way I looked into it, impact the case. I mean, she's basically what she was sort of admitting by asking as far as I was concerned, by asking the question was, well, this is a political case that could be dropped depending on who wins the election, or could be whatever depending on who wins the election. I mean, you're not fighting somebody then. You're not fighting for extradition if that's the case on any law basis, you're fighting for extradition simply because it's political to you.
So she
At least
confirmed
that's
it's
how I
political.
looked into it.
Yeah,
So,
so you agree. So she confirmed
totally.
that it's political.
I mean, I agree too. I was just
how
trying
did
to
Mohammed
remember
see it?
what Mo was saying about it.
What did he say?
It was
I'm
more.
sorry.
It was more or less that date was already going to be after the election, so it didn't kind of matter, like
Yeah,
whether.
but she went further. She went
Yeah, I
further.
suppose
I know. I agree with you all. That was kind of the gist I
Yeah.
got from Mo that I can remember.
Yeah. I mean, we can speculate as to why she said it, what her real reasons were, but the reality is she said something that she shouldn't have said as a judge. She's meant to be independent and impartial. This is meant to be a hearing that has nothing to do with the political, supposedly nothing to do with political matters. So the fact that she went further, I think inadvertently, and took into consideration, for whatever reason, even if it's only for the date when it's important. The date of handing down a ruling is important. It's part of the trial, you know.
I mean, I mean, as an aside, the election doesn't matter anyway. Biden's not going to let Julian is going to drop those charges. He's called the guy a high-tech terrorist.
That's right. But she shouldn't have taken it into consideration because it's in reality should be, if you're saying that the trial is not political, why would you take into consideration when elections will occur in the country that is pursuing the person that you're judging? I mean, she wasn't talking about Russian elections. She was talking about the US elections, and it's the US that's prosecuting the person that whose matter she's adjudicating.
Yeah, she said the quiet part out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's kind of that's my feeling.
If the quote is correctly quoted, if she wasn't misquoted, and I trust Kristen Crampson in WikiLeaks, I think that the quote is correctly quoted. And if that's the case, then I agree with Kristen Crampson that she probably inadvertently admitted that this is a political trial and her own political role in it, actually. So she's not acting as a judicial adjudicator. She's acting, at least in part, as a political adjudicator. She's running the trial. She decides on the dates of the ruling. I mean, she's decided on many things, including as to whether she has jurisdiction or whether the security firm Serco has jurisdiction over the person that she refuses to bail.
So we've got some stuff from Mary Kostakidis here. Andy Worthington did not testify in person. They just read his statement out loud. He's the author of the UN report on secret detention. WikiLeaks approached him to partner with on publication of the Gitmo files.
Worthington notes the Gitmo file shows innocent men were, quote, detained by mistake or because the US were offering substantial bounties to allies for Al-Qaeda or Taliban suspects. That's from Kevin Gustolo. And obviously, I think he's talking there about the Casio watch thing, wasn't he, where they were rounding up people with Casio watches because the Americans had told these mercenaries that, you know, members of Al-Qaeda, etc., they wear a Casio watch. So it led to one German guy getting thrown in Gitmo for years. And he was literally just he was a backpacker. It was literally he got thrown in Guantanamo Bay for years. That's the sort of thing.
We also learned that the U.S. was issuing like a reward system for information leading to the capture of someone connected to Al-Qaeda, and people were using it as a weapon to take out political enemies, to take out journalists. There was a journalist from Al Jazeera from Pakistan that got swooped up in this and wound up in Gitmo for a number of years. The Guantanamo Bay files exposed in a relatively short number of documents compared to the rest of WikiLeaks jobs. the depth of depravity and cruelty as a matter of policy by the U.S. military.
Yeah, it for my mind as well, Steve. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but it shows just the veracity and the amount of energy that was put into the American military industrial complex after 9/11. Because I mean, the way it just it went off like a rocket. And I mean, there's a great movie. I've forgotten what it's called now. Something. Forgotten who's in it, and it's all about these two kids who just wound up as one of the major weapons exporters and weapon arms dealers because of the sheer amount of money that was being bandied around by the weapons contracts that were going on after that. And obviously all of this, all of the procedure and everything that happened, it seems like it was all written afterwards, and it seems like it was all done afterwards. They just said, right, we're going to do this, we're going to hit these 7 countries in 5 years or whatever it was, and they went after it. And it's, you're seeing the results of it now with, you know, incredible bounties being put on members of Al Qaeda, and they're just telling crooks and mercenaries this, and obviously they're going off and they're just finding anybody they didn't like and throwing them in the back of a truck and going, look, American Al Qaeda, 10,000 please.
Mm-hmm.
But because of WikiLeaks, we know who created Al Qaeda, ISIS.
This, of course, is all tied
their
in.
initials are Obama and Clinton, Hillary.
There's an interview, or there's a clip of Hillary Clinton giving testimony, I believe as a senator, in front of some committee or another, where Hillary says, you know, let's not forget that, you know, 20 years ago, we were funding the Taliban and they were ours. And she lets it out that, like, yeah, we're funding ISIS. Yeah, we're funding Daesh. Yeah, that's what we do. Why wouldn't we create and fund terrorist organizations in the Mideast? We got to fight somebody.
Yeah, and if you're not fighting anybody, then fund both sides of a war and let them fight, and you can cream all the money off the top and the profit from the arms sales, and that's the way. Let's remember, you know, Julian's down there and he's in that dock and he's in that glass cage right now, treated like a criminal when he's no crime he committed. And he's not there because they're a shit journalistic outfit, WikiLeaks. He's not there because he's crap journalist and he's done something wrong. No. In the words of the great Chris Hedges, Julian Assange is being persecuted for his virtues, not his vices. You know, he's in the dock right now because he does journalism, and WikiLeaks does journalism better than any organization ever have in history. If you look at the fact that they have, is it over 1 million documents on average per year since their inception in 2005 that they've dropped, not a single one of them have ever been proved to be wrong. And yet, if you combine all those millions of documents and you look at the amount of stories of absolute global importance that they have dropped, this is why they're going after WikiLeaks. It's not because they're a bad organization. It's because, as I've said on multiple occasions, what they have done is they have took the fundamentals of the fourth estate from the analog age and transferred them flawlessly in the digital. And what has resulted is that they have published more stories of global importance in the last 15 years than the entire media combined have in the last 100. That's why he's on trial. And that's why it's disgusting that not a goddamn journalist in our entire media seems to give 2 shits about it right now. There you go. He's down there because he's great, not because he's done anything wrong.
And all the mainstream media outlets that republished did that. You know, it's not like WikiLeaks was the only one to publish. First of all, they were not the first to publish. Because of cryptome and but you know, I mean, the fact that the New York Times, the Le Monde in France, who was it, the Guardian in the UK, Der Spiegel in Germany. I mean, these are supposedly the respected media in those countries. Now they republished or used the material. Because, well, one assumes they verified also that they verified the information. And so, and none of them have been pursued by the states for espionage. So,
Yeah, none at all. And it's important. You bring up a great point there as well with crypto. I mean, this is something that the media have jumped on, and our friends at the Guardian have jumped on over and over and over, haven't they? That said, oh, that they published unredacted files. No, they didn't. They didn't publish unredacted files. They had unredacted files under lock and key, and the Guardian had a key and published it in a book. They didn't even publish those documents first. WikiLeaks didn't. They republished them. So that entire thing is a load of balls. And obviously, we must remember that the indictment and the reason, and many of the things that Julian Assange, the reason the Americans are after Julian Assange right now, is because he exposed the war criminals and the criminal activities from these war criminals under the Obama administration, as well as the Bush administration, of which Vice President, our man Biden, who is the blues savior against Trump, he was vice president while these war criminals were getting away with
he's complicit.
He's just been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. You know that?
Oh my God.
One of our members of parliament. What next? Is Luke Harding going to be nominated for a Pulitzer?
Oh my God. Well, as I think Steve has the quote about if you win a Nobel. No, what's the best thing? What did you say? It's better to be indicted. You say the quote because you're better at it.
Julian said that now the mark of service to society isn't a Nobel Peace Prize, but an Espionage Act indictment.
Well, if you actually look at the three people who have been nominated,
Who are the others? Who are the other shitheads apart from Biden? Has Hillary been nominated?
I don't know. Kissinger probably again, and it's just it is a joke. It really is. It's a joke.
Sheldon Adelson's head of security at the Senate has been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize.
You get a prize. You get a prize. You get a prize.
They're going to be giving Pulitzers away to Russiagators next. Oh, wait. Hold on.
They have already.
Well, and Biden has he brags about his role making decisions in foreign policy in the Obama administration. Chris Hedges has said, Trump is bad, but Biden is far worse than Trump. Trump inherited the system that Biden helped build.
If you actually look at Biden's record, and I've been listening to Chris Hedges and listening to what he said, and obviously doing some research based on what he said, and Biden was known as Senator Credit Card, because obviously all the credit card companies are in Delaware because that's where they get away with all the financial stuff. But his son was on the payroll of these credit card companies. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I'm sure Hunter Biden is a very, very smart man. He does, Anyway, it's if you go back and look at his record, he oversaw the hearings for Supreme Court members. It was 6 of them. One of them was Antonin Scalia, and I hear that you guys really, hated him. And Clarence Thomas, who's I believe has got an absolutely awful record. That was 2 people that Biden championed, and then there's the infamous Anita Hill. A cross-examination of which, where's the hashtag Me Too crowd now looking at that? His record is awful, truly awful. I can't see anything getting better, no matter which one of those you choose to run the military-industrial complex and ruin the world.
Oh yeah, we're screwed regardless.
Yeah. We need a massive change. We need a massive change, and I can't see where it's coming from.
Well, he's a decoy. We need to look at Kamala and Hillary.
Oh yeah.
We need to look at the whole chessboard.
Well, do you think he's going to unselfishly have a stroke after he's won? Then, if he wins Biden,
within 24 hours of getting the nomination or getting elected, within 20,
he's going to unselfishly have a heart attack.
I'm even wondering if he unselfishly has a heart attack just before the election.
No, because then they actually have to go through another nomination process and convention.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
okay. Oh, so they'll have to keep him around till okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So just a quick update.
Yeah.
They're done with court for the day. Jamil Jaffer's statement was read. What his statement was, or at least according to Mary Kostakidis, what his statement was primarily about was a reiteration that use of the Espionage Act towards journalists and the added on effects of the case for press freedom and the ramifications that will have going forward. Trying to drive home the point that the charges that Julian is facing apply to all journalists and to journalism itself, and the documents that have been released are vital to the public's ability to understand, evaluate, and influence government policy. And at that point, court was adjourned for the day. They'll be back at 10 a.m. British Standard Time tomorrow.
Well, now that you mentioned that, the Council of Europe actually issued very interesting, important statements on the effect of this trial on journalism. They said it goes beyond this case. They actually did make that and then made him a protected journalist. He's on the list of protected journalists on the Council of Europe. And their statements are very interesting, relating to Julian Assange and the future of journalism. They say that this is going to have a chilling effect on journalism, press freedom. So it's very important for people to look at the statements of that international organization. People must not confuse it with the European Council.
I mean,
Council of Europe is an international organization.
I think the chilling effect is going to happen regardless of the decision.
Yeah.
I mean, how many years has he gone through this? Like, I think they're already hitting their mark on that. They just don't want any more people doing it.
I think if they lose, and if they lose this, they will be losing openly. I think if they lose this, that's it. That's it. They will not be able to go after a journalist for the next 30 years. I think it's important for them to lose this and to lose it fast, like now.
I hope so.
Not later on appeal, etc. They need to lose this now. And I cannot see anybody doing this to any journalist. I mean, they'll have to go to the traditional methods of bumping off journalists, in accidents, etc. But I don't think they will be openly. Journalists are always, it's a dangerous job. They're always at risk if they speak the truth of being removed in one way or another. But the thing is, we mustn't make this legal. We mustn't make a precedent for illegal attacks on journalists.
Real quick, Kat Terrell in the chat said that Joseph Mengele will win the Nobel Peace Prize posthumously.
Yeah.
Makes sense, yeah.
Well, folks, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap here. I would like to get some final thoughts from both of you, and please remind the folks that are watching where they can find you. And thank you both very, very much for spending the time with us today. Gordon, I missed you. I'm glad you're here.
Likewise. Thank you, Gordon.
I'm back, guys. Don't worry, I'm back. I'm back today. It's all I will say to people, if you get active, start mailing people, start writing letters and start standing up for democracy, because this case, it hits right at the heart of democracy, right at the heart. If you have not got a viable fourth estate, if you have not got a free press, free of government interference, where it can hold it account, you haven't got democracy. And that's what's at stake here. So anybody who's been screaming for the last 4 years, Brexit, we need to take back our sovereignty. This is the fight right here. This is your democracy on the line. And, you know, we can't let it die in darkness. We just can't. It's too important. It's too important. I haven't got kids. I shouldn't give a shit. If you've got kids, this is their future that's really on the line here. And I can't stress that enough. Get active, get involved, and educate yourself and other people on what is going on, and try and have a conversation with people as well, especially people who are misinformed. There's a lot of misinformation on with regards to this, and it's it's that way for a reason. So yeah, try and keep up. And thanks very much to Steve and the Action for Assange crew. I met Taylor on Monday again and told her what a wonderful job she's doing. And Steve, thanks very much to you and Andrew. I know that you're basically working around the clock, and you're getting very little sleep, and I really appreciate you all.
All right. Well, thanks, Gordon. Much love to you, brother. Hey, Kathy, we're about to wrap here, Kathy, but since you're here, why don't you go ahead and give us your observations and
Oh, well, I don't know if you know this yet. It's finished for the day.
Yeah.
But one of the important things that was said right at the end was that it has been agreed that all of the statements will be published soon. That was a request by the press, and the defense raised no objection. And I don't know if you were aware of this, but the Bridges for Media website was down for a day and a half. And that's where some of the statements were being published. Obviously, Tarek seems to have got some from elsewhere, but there weren't all that many. And I have been very, very keen to see some statements like Jacob Augstein, for example, being of the technical persuasion. I want to dig into that one. And, we've just had very, very brief summaries. It was crazy today how quickly it went.
Mm-hmm.
But they will be released soon. And then the question of the transcripts is going to be resolved tomorrow.
Okay.
Sorry, could I ask what question of the transcripts as to whether they will be published?
Well, the problem to date has been that it is the defense and prosecution who pay for them.
Yeah.
And so Baratza says she's not the owner of them. So they have to decide between the two of them if they want to pass them on. And they're incredibly expensive, as Deepa pointed out when she came on our show. I'm not quite sure, but
Can I ask you, Kathy? You might know. Could I ask you, is the court recording the cloud video streaming?
It seems that they are.
Now that's the court. We can FOI or request those recordings. She does have power over the recordings, and since it's an open trial, we should be able to get all of those recordings. It's supposedly an open trial, open justice. So if you could find out if they are being recorded.
Well, it seems to me that in the course of the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, goodness.
If they're recorded,
I've heard it said, I think.
Okay, can somebody find out if they are recorded and let me know?
I will inquire. I suppose I've got the right email address to ask that of the court, and we've been granted access, so we're officially members of the approved press.
Okay, all right. Okay.
But the transcripts will be very, very good as well, and they risk to arrive sooner. So you'll be able to have a good read of it all. I will really enjoy doing that because I've been trying to summarize everything into 128 characters, and you can only really half listen a lot of the time.
Did you, Kathy, say you wanted Jacob Augustin's statement?
Augstein, yes.
Augstein, yeah. So there's a 4-page written statement on Tarek's site in the archives.
He's got Jacob's?
Yeah, I can stick it in your Twitter right now if you want.
You can do that, or just go to Tarek's site.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful he's getting a little bit extra.
Yeah, I'll DM that to you right now.
His site was
There's
running
another-
pretty slow, so keep that in mind.
The what?
His site
There's
was
another
running really slow
website
earlier.
there's another website that is merrily publishing all kinds of things. I don't really want to name them, but I think you might know who it is. Boulder's Brass.
Yeah.
So if anybody understands what that means, go right ahead. I've just decided I wasn't going to draw too much attention to it because there's good stuff going up there. Okay, I just came back to listen. But
Oh, we were gonna. I actually got to get out of here. I got to go to work for 8 hours now.
Woohoo!
Steve, you're awesome, mate. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank
you.
Not easy,
nice
guys.
to see you, Gord, Nikki.
Yeah, you too, Kathy, and you, Nikki, and you, and hear from you, Josh.
It's good to hear from you, Gordon.
All right,
Thank you,
bye-bye.
Kathy.
Okay. Bye.
We'll thank you all so much. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to Nico House for letting us use the MCSE network to broadcast in the mornings here. And thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, Sleepy Josh on the ones and twos. Kendra Christian. Kevin Gastola. Who else was? We had a lot of fucking people in here today. That was fantastic. Andrew Smith. As always, my co-host. And yeah, we'll be back tomorrow for what looks like the last day of the hearing proper. Again, closing arguments will be delivered, I guess, in written form only to the court November 16th at some point in January. Vanessa Baratzer will read her verdict.
Pre-written statement.
Right.
Statement. It's gonna have Mike Pompeo's cologne all over it. But I believe that Action for Assange is going to try to go back to DC for that day and maybe like a day prior. So as we know more about that, you will know more about that. And we will see you very soon.
There's only one decision. No extradition.
Good luck to us all.